After-hours football debate for poachers, private eyes...
Could I ask you something personal?
...and pole dancers.
I'm not in market for business, love.
Mike Graham's been all three at some point in his career.
Oh, really, you great big sweaty bush idiot?
And I'll tell you what, you were a better pole dancer than presenter, I can tell you that.
The Two Mikes on Talk Sport.
I take my shirt off in front of the kids and say, look at me, aren't I ugly? Aren't I fat and flabby? If you want to look like me, keep eating 4 packets of crisps a day, 2 chocolate bars, have a pizza after school, and you will look like me. Australopithecus deieremeda, which is Latin for the ape man.
Okay.
Life has hit me in many different forms. I've swatted...
Yeah, you're still bearing the scars.
I've swatted all those problems away. I am still, like a galleon, in full sail... on that ocean. You and your time obsession always kills off the programme.
Well, it's nothing to do with that. It's because you spent so much time slagging me off for my alleged bad habit. This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the Two Mikes, and it's time to say a very good morning and a very warm welcome to Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
A very good morning to you, Mike, and the start of another great week here on Talk Sport, in which we're going to bring you some dynamic broadcasting, OK?
Yes.
Blow your socks off.
Excellent.
In a big way, and head you towards yet another week of enlightenment, discovery...
Yes.
And bountifulness.
And maybe a bit of entertainment along the way.
Entertainment is included in all 3 categories.
Excellent. Now,
absolutely right.
Now, obviously, Jack Wishere is going to come up in conversation because an awful lot of people over the weekend, particularly after Jack Wilshere's performance against Slovenia,
which was brilliant,
England,
wasn't it?
Which was brilliant.
Utterly brilliant.
I'm very interested in your take on it because, of course, you were the man who said that he shouldn't even be playing for England.
I totally agree.
So we'll get to that in a second.
But we have
to talk about Jack Grealish as well.
Yes.
Who's the latest young footballer who seems to have been found spark out on the streets of Tenerife. Completely and utterly comatose with drink. And listening to Robert Lee there, I don't know if you heard that we just played out, former Newcastle player, basically saying, well, you know, he's a young lad, you know, he's had a drink, don't take a picture, get him home, and he'll be all right to go back the next day. I mean, that's where we are now in this country. Andy Goldstein and Jason Cundy said the same thing. Oh, leave him alone. He's just doing what everybody does.
Sorry,
I don't see why everybody's doing this.
I can't understand these apologists for footballers who behave like that. Right from the age of 14, when they sign up with a club, or 12 or 7, some people have been with clubs that long, you know, 7 or 8 years of age. Part of the deal for being treated as a very special person in our society, earning one of the highest salaries in the world, is that you have a code of conduct you have to abide to right the way through your professional life. You just don't do that. You just don't go off to Tenerife, get bladdered, and splattered.
We'll talk about Sepp Blatter later.
Bladdered and splattered all over a pavement. Like, I just don't understand.
Hang on.
How can you find apologists for that sort of behaviour?
Well, not only can you find apologists for it, because people think that it's the norm, and that's the problem. And I blame, actually, an awful lot of people of an older generation, including yourself, because you've said on this show in the past that, you know, young men should be going out there getting bladdered every night, having a great time.
Well, if they're not professional footballers, I don't see any problem.
But the problem
if they are professional footballers, they shouldn't do it.
Yeah, well, I accept that, and of course they shouldn't do it if they're professional footballers, but the other point is that, you know, why should everybody else do it? Why should all these youngsters be expected to go out and get completely smashed off their faces,
that's up to
unconscious?
Them.
Well, yeah, but it's wrong, though. It's not doing them any good, is it?
They're not letting down people who invest in them, the guys, but people invest in footballers. Fans who buy season tickets at Aston Villa are investing in Jack Grealish. Therefore, he's no right to go and waste his talent by getting bladdered. If you want to know what out-of-control behaviour with drink involves and what its consequences are, then go and have a word with Paul Gascoigne, who we've interviewed in the studio many, many times, or perhaps you should read the most recent accounts of the plight of Kenny Sampson, because they are tragic cases whose careers were cut miserably short and miserably lacking in the sort of achievement that they should have had by drink. Not so much in Kenny Sampson's case. He won 85 caps for England, fantastic, outstanding career, but then I'm afraid afterwards it all went wrong for Paul Gascoigne. As we all know, his career was miserably curtailed by the ravages of drink.
Yeah, but my point is not so much about that. It's about the sort of the culture of drinking in this society in which we live. You know, and you and I talk about drinking all the time.
Yeah, but I don't mind that too much.
Well, I do, because I think the point, when people say that someone like Jack Grealish is only doing what every other kid his age is doing, they're right. He is only doing what every other kid his age is doing. Yeah. But why are they doing it? Because, you know, we have plenty of foreign kids who come to this country. Yeah, but that's a different question altogether. Well, it's a much more interesting question.
No, it's not. No, mine's more interesting. What I'm saying is, what what Jack Grealish has to do is stand up and say, I'm not going to be one of the sheep. I'm not going to be one of the crowd. I'm not going to do what other people of my age do. I have...
Yeah, but that's harder for him to do.
Of course it is. I have special responsibilities, and those special responsibilities need to be, to be examined and endorsed and enforced by himself. Now, Rob Lee, right, I heard talking. I know Rob, he's a good lad. And
former Newcastle man,
had a good career, but is known within football circles as perhaps not the brightest tool in the box.
Is that right?
You know what I mean? Without being rude.
That's being very rude.
No, I'm not being rude. I'm not being rude. Rob would accept some of that himself.
I didn't ask you for your opinion of Rob.
Rob would accept some of that himself. Olivia, and that's not a general comment on football. We've got Andy Gray coming on the show later on, known as one of the brightest tools in the box, when it comes to footballers.
Was I right to call him an Everton legend? I wasn't sure if that was correct.
Absolutely. If you take a footballer's toolbox, you would say that Andy Gray would perhaps be... maybe a mighty chisel or something like that, you know. And
I don't know why you're continuing with this.
Well, no, perhaps Rob would be described as maybe a little screwdriver that you use to change a plug or something like that.
That's of no consequence. That is of no consequence. What Rob Lee had to say, however, is of great consequence, because basically what he was saying was that somebody gets themselves into this kind of state. What's his mate? His mate should take him home, dust him down, let him sleep it off, and then go back again tomorrow night.
Do you remember?
And that's the problem. What I was going to say to you is that you walk around the streets of London, right, and there's loads of foreign tourists, there's loads of kids that come here, loads of groups of young teenagers. In fact, there's a youth hostel not very far from where I live, which is always full of French kids and Dutch kids. Right. They're all about 16, 17. Now, if that was in Magaluf and these kids were there and they were English, they'd all be completely smashed. They'd all be puking up on the streets. They'd all be lying there, having their pictures taken.
Have you ever seen Swedish kids on holiday in Magaluf?
And I don't see them doing it in London.
Have you ever seen Dutch kids on holiday
I've never
in
been to Magaluf. I've got no desire to go there.
Oh, really? I've been there and I've seen
When did you go to Magaluf?
Oh, a few years back now.
A few years back, a few decades.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, it's not relevant then.
Well, of course it's relevant, you fool. You've never been there.
Well, how is it irrelevant being somewhere...
How can you speak about it? You've never been there. What's the moon look like? What's the moon like?
What does the moon look like?
Go on, tell me.
It looks like the moon.
No, how do you know? You've never been there.
No, it looks like the moon.
So if you haven't been there, you can't speak about it. Well, I have been there, OK?
No, but when you were in Magaluf, they were still drinking probably, little shots of Johnny Walker or something. Is the big excitement.
No, it was San Miguel.
Yeah, San Miguel beer.
San Miguel all round.
Yeah, so you went there to get bladdered, in other words?
No, not at all. No.
Really?
What people drank in those days, because it sounded so exotically foreign, and I'm actually going back quite a few decades now.
Yeah, how many decades are you going back?
Well, three, four. And what you drank was, because it sounded so exotic, and you thought, I'll use this when I get home to impress the female population.
That's what you use everything for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You'd say, dos Cuba Libre.
Yeah.
Boco de Is or something like that. You know what I mean? And
Boco
that would
de Is.
Well,
was that meant to mean lots of ice?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because that would sort of
Boco being French,
that
of course.
but I mean it was nearest. France is near to Spain, and that way, you sounded so exotic and all that kind of stuff. And you come back to the King's Head in Chester, and say, Dos Cuba Libre, you know what I mean?
They must have thought you were right, Wally.
Maybe they did. But anyway, look, we're getting back to the serious situation here. It is not good to see...
You seem unwilling to admit that this whole drinking culture for young people is actually wrong. It is wrong.
I am not going to start putting myself as a paramount... What is it? A virtue?
Paragon.
A paragon of virtue. I'm not going to put myself as a paragon of virtue to say I'm starting a campaign, because I've got enough campaigns going.
You have got enough campaigns going.
We're going to touch on one or two of my campaigns tonight, by the way.
Good.
But I've got enough campaigns going to start a campaign now to try and sober up delinquent English teenagers and those in their early 20s. It can't be done. However, Jack Grealish has to stand away from that, stand aside. Would you ever see Theo Walcott in that position? The answer is no. Did we ever see Joe Cole in that position? The answer is no. Would we, to this day, ever see a young foreign player, as you quite rightly say, in that position, like Delafue, who is coming back to Everton from Barcelona to join Everton? No, you wouldn't see him in that situation. So what you have to say to yourself is, yes, it is the English disease, but no, Jack Grealish should not be part of it. There should be no forgiving for ending up on your back with your eyes closed on a street somewhere in dusty Spain.
Yeah, well, let me explain to you what your mate Tim Sherwood said to him after the last episode where he was caught in a rather sort of difficult situation where he was inhaling that legal high nitrous oxide, right? I explained to him, said Tim, his behaviour can't be tolerated by the football club. We can't condone that behaviour. It doesn't matter how young he is now in a responsible position as a professional footballer. Yes. He's got to make sure it won't happen again. He's assured me that it won't. Now, I can't can't imagine Tim Sherwood's going to be too happy at seeing those pictures, can you?
No, I think he'd be very unhappy. I don't think we ever saw Tim Sherwood in that sort of condition either. You know, as a responsible young man, has now become manager because he knows how to behave himself. These kids think they've got a future in football, they've got to prove it. Next, we need to talk about Jack Wishere. I can absolutely justify my original statement that Jack Wishere should not even have been part of the England squad.
Yeah.
And I can ally that to the fantastic performance which he pulled out the bag against Slovenia, which frankly saved the game because we were heading for a bit of a sort of temporary disaster there.
Yeah.
And he rescued it.
Okay.
If only Jack Wishere can reproduce that form in the next 12 months. But the biggest problem is, as I said in a tweet over the weekend, is the summer has now come at the wrong time for Jack Wishere. He's at the peak of his form now. Yeah. What he needs is to be playing games. I just hope that the break,
which is sometimes play in the under-21 tournament.
Well, that's not a bad idea.
Time, by the way.
Not a bad idea. Don't worry about the time.
Worried about it.
When I'm in full flow, the time becomes irrelevant because the listeners just want to hear where I'm going.
Most of what you say. And just hold on to it for a minute.
No, I'm not going to hold on to it. I'm trying to make a point.
Yeah, well, it's too late now because you can make the point in a minute.
Well, you speak
just
too much.
Just look into the light for the moment.
People don't want to listen to you.
I think you may have peaked at the wrong time as well. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. More coming up.
That's not my age.
Whether you're saving up for a new home or you've got a wedding to pay for.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the two mics. There's going to be some pronunciation difficulty, I can tell, over the course of the night because that player that you just mentioned before the break there, not Jack Wishere, but Gerard Deulofeu, who might be coming back to Everton. We'll be talking to Andy Gray. Deula what?
Deulofeu.
Would you just like to hear the original and the best way to pronounce it once again?
There's
from
a million
Roberto.
ways to pronounce it.
Roberto Martinez.
I spent time in Portugal. Right?
What's Portugal got to do with it?
What's Portugal got to do with it?
Yeah.
Portugal is the fact that this boy is Spanish, right?
Yeah, he's Spanish.
That's right. Yeah.
So why would you go to Portugal?
Well, because they speak
Portuguese
there.
Yes, which is different from Spanish.
No. I meant to say I was an expert in Spanish as well, but I was going to emphasise my expertise in Spanish by saying I've also been to Portugal.
Oh, good.
Where I can judge the difference in enunciation and pronunciation.
So how do you think this guy's name is pronounced?
Deulofeu.
Well, why don't you listen to Roberto Martinez?
Deulofeu.
See, that's same.
Deulofeu.
No, same as me.
You can't say it. Deulofeu.
Yeah, but Mr. Martinez is Spanish, so his enunciation is different.
He's pronouncing it correctly.
But he's a Spaniard who's learned to speak English, trying to pronounce a Spanish name with a what are you looking at?
A Spaniard trying to pronounce a Spanish name.
Yeah.
He's a Spaniard pronouncing a Spanish name.
I know,
because that's his mother tongue.
Yes, but he's pronouncing it in broken English, which he now speaks. So it's not the proper enunciation. That's all I'm saying.
Enunciation or pronunciation?
Enunciation.
So you think he's enunciating it wrong?
Properly.
Right, anyway, OK. Now, tell us about Jack Wishere and this theory of yours of how you're going to get out of why he shouldn't have been playing for England.
No, it's not a theory at all. I don't think he should have been included in the squad. The fact that he was included in the squad meant that Roy Hodgson must have simply said to him, look, I think you've got an opportunity here to replenish the damage you've done to your own reputation by, really giving us a great game tonight. Now, the point is, what we saw in Jack Wishere was the sheer genius of the boy. And, I mean, both his goals are almost identical.
Yeah.
And, the next time he plays, if anybody ever allows him to move into that sort of position, outside the area, then bang, the woof, he's going to pull the trigger in his left foot and bang, it'll go again.
I mean, you have two great goals, but you would have to say that it was against Slovenia, who are the 48th best team in the world.
Yes,
right?
True.
Which I think has some bearing, doesn't it? I mean, by the way, it's the first two goals he'd ever scored for England.
I know, but we were struggling. I mean, to have got 1-0 down and he was struggling and that. And then Wayne Rooney missed two, didn't he? 58, 59.
He missed about four.
Yeah, he did. We missed two crucial ones, one after the other. But then what I was going to say was, so I was absolutely right in the first place to say Jack Wishere shouldn't have been included in the squad.
Why?
Well, because of the behaviour outside of the game.
But I thought your argument originally was that he shouldn't be included in the Ireland squad, and then that was out of the way. And then the next game was against Slovenia, which was an actual qualification game.
Yes, but I mean, you pick the same squad for the two games, don't you? And the training camp goes on for a week, so to speak. I know there was a break of 2 days when they went home and then came back. But what I'm saying is, I was absolutely right what I said. You can't flap and bend in the wind. You can't say, Jack Grealish scored. Jack Wishere. Yeah. Jack Wishere scored two great goals, therefore I was wrong to say he shouldn't have been in the squad. I was right to say he wasn't in the squad. I'm the man who put his foot down. I'm the man who spoke out. I had the principle absolutely right.
Yeah.
And
But had he not played, then England would have lost, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that at all. Somebody else would have stepped in, probably Rooney, to have done what he did. I was still very, very disappointed that Theo Walcott didn't start the game. I mean, Raheem Sterling didn't have a bad game, but he didn't score.
He had a great chance in the opening sort of minutes, didn't he?
He did, indeed. And I can't understand why Theo Walcott, who's in the form of his life, and when allowed to go on the pitch, is scoring goals.
Well, how come he was ahead? How come Andros Townsend was ahead of him as well?
I've no idea. I don't know. I just don't get all that. And I see that also. I see in terms of attitude and respect and all this kind of stuff. I see that the boy who thinks he should be playing left back, who didn't play left back, and I didn't realise this, stormed off the field. And didn't even acknowledge Roy Hodgson on the way back. I'm talking about, the young, what's his name? Southampton boy. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
What, Klein?
Yeah, Klein, absolutely, yeah.
He's Nathaniel Klein you're talking about.
Roy Hodgson has warned Nathaniel Klein, no players guaranteed an England place. Phil Jones was a shock choice to start at right back ahead of Klein Sunday's win. The Southampton star looked unhappy. And then apparently stormed off at the end because he wasn't even brought on as he wasn't even put on as
stormed off at the end. See what's going on with these guys now. Look at this. We've had this tweet sent to us by Christian, talking about James Ward-Prowse.
That's a great name
with a K as well.
Yeah.
Teetotal James Ward-Prowse believes staying clear of the booze can help fire him into England's World Cup plans. And this is him saying he's never touched a drop of alcohol.
Good for
and
him.
Turns down invitations to celebrity parties.
Yeah.
And of course he says I've had loads of offers to go to parties, events, and stuff like that, but I turned them all down. This is how dedicated I am to getting the best out of myself. I've never been interested in getting attention from girls. I just ignore all that sort of stuff because I'm not somebody who wants to be in the newspapers. Hopefully other players will realise if they really want to play at the highest level, you have to look after yourself on and off the pitch.
That's brilliant.
No, that's great.
Now, he's a public school boy, you see.
Is he?
And that just proves the value of public school education in this country. To produce boys like that, produce people with that sort of attitude is an absolutely brilliant thing.
Well, I wish they all had that attitude.
James Milner has that sort of attitude. James Milner has never touched a drop of alcohol in his life. And this is what you've got to do if you're a professional footballer. Right. The fact that you're a professional footballer seems to give some young men the feeling that they have a licence then to misbehave. Yeah. And Jack Wishere and Grealish are amongst those who believe that that's their God-given right.
See, my
if
belief...
only they could have the other attitude of Milner and young Ward-Prowse to say, look,
but
it
my
is a
argument
condition
is, would it
of
not be
being
easier? Would it not be
a professional
easier?
athlete that you don't drink?
But would it not be easier for these kids because they have to follow what all their friends are doing, all their mates are doing it, and so therefore it's much more difficult to opt out of it because people will say, oh, well, why are you doing that? What's wrong with you? Why can't you have a drink? Yeah. Surely the problem would be better solved if we try to work out why it is that our young people go out and get completely blooded all the time.
Why bother? We know exactly why it happens. It's a culture in this country.
I don't know why it happens.
You're never going to stop it. I mean, you're wasting your time.
Why?
Completely wasting your time. You're not going to stop it. I think it's in the chromosomes of people who are born in this country.
Well, I find that very strange.
And then
I find it very strange.
Well, I find it very strange, and I don't know why it happens. Is it something to do? I tell you what it is. It's the repression of drinking hours in this country.
But there is no repression of drinking hours.
There was in 1916.
But not anymore.
In 1916.
Well, there's nobody from 1916 currently getting blasted in Tenerife or Magaluf, is there?
Let me tell you this. I've lived through an era of repressed drinking hours. And,
well, that might be to blame for your alcohol excesses, but it's not to blame for the people who are going there now at age 16.
Sorry, my alcohol excesses.
Yeah, your alcohol excesses.
Oh, I think you've forgotten something, Mike.
Yeah, what have I forgotten?
On our first show of the week, which is, sort of overnight Monday, Tuesday AM, the audience do like to hear the report of the Saturday night bladderation routine. One white, one red, one rosé.
That's not true.
Bottle of whiskey or brandy.
It's just another one of your lies.
It's not. How did it go this week?
This week I hardly had very much to drink at all because I was driving the car a lot.
Hardly had very much to drink at all.
Well, maybe you'd like to explain how you went missing for 12 hours off Twitter.
When?
Yesterday.
Well, that's because it was my mother's 82nd birthday.
Oh, yeah.
And we went down to the family house down in Stockbroker Belt, deep in Stockbroker Belt territory.
Deep in Stockbroker Belt territory?
Yeah.
So what, a hop, skip and a jump from your actual house?
No, deep down in the territory, and there is no signal, I'm afraid.
Oh, really?
There are parts of... No, seriously, there are parts of Surrey which
why
are
don't you just admit
dead.
what really happens is when you walk into the house, one member of your family takes your phone away from you in case you get in trouble and says you can't have this back till tomorrow morning.
No, the signal just isn't there, and even to make a phone call or get a text
the stockbrokers must have trouble keeping in touch with all of their stocks, mustn't they?
I don't know how they put up with it, because I have to walk to the end of the drive, then the end of the road, just to be able to check up on tweets and things.
Haven't they got any Wi-Fi in Stockbroker Belt?
No.
Sorry, then.
Well, I suppose they've got Wi-Fi. I'm not sure.
So they haven't got Wi-Fi in the house?
They must have. They've got broadband and all that.
So you can't get on Twitter then?
Well, I've no idea how to do that. I don't know how to work my phone to do all that. I mean, my phone just normally works. It doesn't work when I go down there. So that's why. But anyway, I wouldn't have been tweeting out all day. It's my mother's birthday, 82nd birthday. Guess where we went?
Where'd you go?
We went to
Toby Carvery.
No, but it was actually a carvery.
A carvery?
Yes.
An upmarket carvery?
It was very upmarket indeed. It was at Kingswood Golf Club.
Oh, very nice.
And they have a Sunday carvery, and I have to say, although I worked it out actually, it's literally 4 times more expensive than the Toby carvery, you know? But...
And there's no chance of you getting any kind of poisoned carvery problem, apparently.
Well, you don't get a poison carvery problem when you go to the Toby. Who do you know who's been poisoned?
Well, there's a lawsuit going on down in the West Country. Remember I told you about it?
Rubbish.
Yeah, there is.
Up to nonsense. I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, the point of my story is...
Yeah, what is the point of your story?
That the spread is just amazing. I mean, because at the old Toby, you don't
Golf
get
club Sunday lunches are very good.
Yeah. At the Toby, you don't get a starter. You just get a main course, right? But here...
what did you have as a starter? They do smoked mackerel, avocado?
All of that.
Yeah.
All of that. But I actually had smoked beef and smoked ham.
Oh, very nice.
As a starter with...
so you have a carvery starter as well?
Yeah, with potato salad, beetroot and tomato. That was my starter, right?
Very nice.
And on the main course, I had some delicious sirloin of beef with some delicious gammon.
No, right. Was it lean?
Yeah, it was. Very lean.
Very nice.
Lean gammon. Yeah,
Excellent.
it was brilliant.
And to accompany it from the sommelier, what did you have?
We had Pinot Grigio, actually.
Did you?
About 6 bottles of it, yeah.
6 bottles?
There were a few of us there from the family,
really?
yeah. And my 2 brother-in-laws had some red. They had, what's it called? What's that?
Rioja?
No. The Australian red.
Merlot? Shiraz?
Shiraz. They had a couple of bottles of Shiraz, so it was a very jolly time indeed. And a lovely place, by the way.
So quite a lot of drink was had there.
The old King's.
See, I was taking my kids to a museum most of Sunday, so I didn't really have anything to drink.
Which museum was it?
Which museum? It was the Museum of Childhood in Bethnal Green.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh, really?
Strange place to go.
Why is it a strange place to go? They're children.
Why
did
you go to the
come all the way up
into London?
Well, because they were up in London anyway, doing something else. We were visiting some friends.
I see.
So I was up and down from Sussex to London.
I see.
Sunday afternoon, we were in the Museum of Childhood, which was
Excellent.
lovely.
Well, that sounds good. A good family weekend.
It was.
And you weren't affected by the hangover you had from Saturday night.
I didn't have a hangover from Saturday night.
You always have a hangover Saturday night. You always have a hangover Saturday night. Don't lie to the audience.
You've never seen me on a Saturday.
If your audience can't believe what you're saying, you completely lose faith. You're going to lose face.
There's only one person here whose stories are in question.
What?
I think that would be you. We are the Two Mikes. We're going to talk to somebody who knows a bit about the bladderation of our youngsters. He's a former rep and DJ on ITV's Club Reps, a man by the name of Lee Watson.
Oh, yes.
He's currently working as a DJ now out in the Far East. He's going to tell us what sights he's seen when he's been out on holiday. I want to hear from some of you as well, though, because some of you might have been out on holiday recently to some of these places where drinking is supposed to be being cut down on, which doesn't appear to be the case. 08717 22 33 44. This is Talk Sport.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The enduring home of football.
It's modern radio, only better.
Talk Sport.
Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the Two Mikes. We've got loads going on. It's winners and losers coming up a little bit later on tonight, of course. We have yet another one of those competitions, and there's been loads of stuff for us to talk about over the course of the weekend. Right now, though, we're going to talk about Jack Grealish some more. We're going to talk about the nasty habit that English and other British young holidaymakers seem to have, which is to go abroad wherever they go and get completely and utterly smashed out of their minds. The latest, I suppose, combat zone is out in Tenerife, but Falaraki has been in there in the past. Magaluf as well, Ibiza, loads of other places. We're going to talk now to a guy who was based in Falaraki. He was involved with that ITV show Club Reps, which you may remember, Mr. Parry. His name's Lee Watson. He's a former rep himself. He's now a DJ. Lee, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning to you, Max. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. Thanks very much for joining us. You're out in the Far East right now, DJing. Where are you at the moment?
Yeah, I'm currently in Pattaya in Thailand. I've got a few gigs out here playing fully charged sets at the Half Moon Festival in Koh Phangan, a place in Bangkok, and we've also got Vietnam, so it's all good.
Oh, okay, so how different is that? Because Falaraki, when you were there, must have been a bit wild, I can imagine, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty crazy, to be honest. I mean, back in the day when we were filming Club Reps in 2002, 2003, it was absolutely crazy because it was at Falaraki itself was at its peak. I mean, you're talking 10, 20,000 Brits there, you know, each week, going absolutely crazy up and down. We know it as Bar Street.
And why would they, do you think? I mean, Mike was saying to me, have you ever seen the Swedes on the lash? They get just as tanked up as anybody else does. But this does seem to be a kind of a British disease, though, doesn't it?
Well, see, again, I don't think it is just the Brits. Now, we get this name for ourselves, and I think it stems back from, I don't know, from the 70s, 80s. I'm not 100% on that, but, you know, we do have this reputation of literally going abroad and, you know, excessively drinking. But what I think it is that, you know, especially the younger people, they work, you know, all year round, and they get 1 week or 2 week holiday a year where they just want to go abroad, let their hair down, forget about all the worries back at home, and just go for it. And I think, you know, with drinking all day and all night, it's always going to lead to obviously, you know, people doing what's been in the press recently on the streets and stuff. But like what Mike said before, I don't think it is just the Brits, but we seem to always hit the press. No question about that. And I don't know if that's because...
I'll tell you what that is, Lee. You're absolutely right. We've got a more active tabloid newspaper market than the other countries. You know, Sweden doesn't do it. Holland doesn't do it. We get out there. In the summer, we've got nothing to write about. The obvious thing to do is, you know, send a guy out there with a camera and all that, take a few pictures. And it only replicates what happens in Newcastle and Cardiff and certain parts of London.
But that's the point.
On every Saturday night.
That's what I mean. It doesn't just happen abroad. It happens here.
Sure.
And I'm not sure that it does happen in every other country. That's my point.
But what I'm saying is, Lee, you know, you take the British holidaymaker as a package. The point is they come, they spend loads of money, they create a £1 billion industry, they do a lot of good for, you know, literally spreading wealth around the world when you're doing that sort of thing. The downside of it, a small percentage of them do get intoxicated to a point of disgrace, and that, of course, is a negative side. But when you consider the numbers, when you consider the millions and millions and millions that go, it's a tiny percentage who disgrace themselves.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you anymore, mate. That's
Thank you very much indeed. Very good. Exactly spot on.
Because, you know, it is a minority, but you've got to remember the amount of Brits that go to these places, whether it be your Magaluf, your Falarakis, you know, your Ibifas, Cavoses, all this, Crete, Malia.
That's right.
These places would not be able to survive without the Brits going out there. And we spend thousands and thousands, and they only have, see, all these bars and clubs in these resorts only have 4 to 5 months of the year to make as much money as possible.
Yes.
Hence why, when they go out there, the Brits are offered so many drink deals just to basically get them in the club. So within, you know, from May, June, July, August, even a little bit of September, they want to make as much money as possible from us Brits going to their places so that they can live for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And it's right. And we save up all year round to just go on that holiday. So young 18, 19-year-olds will go there with about £1,000 or whatever it might be and just absolutely go for it. But I also think another reason is that, you know, a lot of places, they'll drink all day. So by the time it gets to the night time, they're already completely gone.
Well, that's the problem.
You know?
I mean, they don't actually sober up the whole time they're there. And you were a rep as well, weren't you, Lee? And I mean, I mean, we've all seen how that goes. I mean, basically, reps are involved in getting everyone involved in drinking games and jumping into the pool and all this. I mean, in Magaluf, they've just banned drinking, supposedly, between midnight and 7 a.m. in the street, right? There's a ban on nudity. They've banned people jumping off hotel balconies into swimming pools. You know, basically, these rules haven't been brought in for a minority. They've been brought in for everybody because everybody's doing it.
Well, it is, but it's like what Mike says there. Yeah. It's only the minority that let that down because some people can go and handle the drink. You know, you can have a few drinks all day. If you start drinking, just have a few beers in the day, but then put some food on your stomach. A lot of people can actually handle that and go for it and just have a decent night out, get themselves back to the hotel, wake up the next day fine. But there is the minority who can't handle that, and then the sun gets to them. Then you see this where they're being sick on the street, and it's like, oh, another Brit being sick on the street, or this doing that, or one lad doing this, a girl doing this, and that's what's getting, you know, obviously hitting the press and being publicised, and that's where the Brits get this reputation from. But I must say, you know, in the times, and because of where I've repped and where I've worked in obviously very British orientated led resorts. But it's like, you know, the Swedes, or like where I am now in Pattaya, you know, there's a lot of different foreign people here. You know, there's Swedish, there's Australians, there's Germans, there's anything, and they come and they do go and party as well. And I think if we went to their resorts where where maybe the Italians go or maybe where the Australians go, I think you'll find the same sort of thing happening, but it doesn't hit their headlines in the press.
I find that a bit hard to believe. But Lee, listen, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great time out there.
There's so many millions of them go out there. You only ever read about one or two.
I've been to plenty of places on holiday. I've been all over the world, in different parts of the world. And the only places where you see people getting absolutely smashed out of their minds and lying down drunk in the street is where you see Brits there.
No, don't agree.
Well,
you've never seen the Swedes, you've never seen the Dutch.
Well, you're talking about 40 years ago. The last time you saw that. I haven't seen that at all.
No.
I haven't seen it. I used to get the Swedes and the Norwegians and various people coming to Scotland, for example. Used to come to Glasgow, and it wasn't them that were lying in the streets at 4 o'clock in the morning. It was the Scots that were lying in the streets at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I don't want you to start having a go at Scots people.
I'm not having a go at Scottish people.
We've ambitions to go to Scotland.
Both of my parents are from Scotland.
We've ambitions to go to Scotland and conduct a show in Scotland, in Glasgow.
Yeah.
So don't you be rude to our Scottish
Well, I think
listeners.
you'll find that the people in Scotland are very warm to me and they're not so warm to you.
Oh, really?
Ronnie in Lancashire says this. Mike, it's an English thing. I dislocated my knee into the second week in Ibiza on holiday. I could drink like a fish then in 1992 and still now. But when you wake up on a ventilator in ICU after 10 hours with a depressed skull fracture with your mum at the end of your bed, you calm down and know your limits. Mine is 8 cans of Holston pills now and then bed. And the problem is...
Sorry, did this boy have a knee injury and a fractured skull?
I guess so, yeah.
Well, what's a knee got to do with a fractured skull? Did he fall down on his knees and smash his head or something?
Well, you can do that. I mean, a lot of people have terrible accidents. Lots of people end up dead because of the ridiculous things that they get up to.
Well, let me just tell you this. There is a very serious side to this. You know what the biggest increase in accidents happening to British people abroad is in the last 12 months? They're falling off balconies.
Yeah.
People are falling off balconies.
Well, this is why, over in Magaluf, right, they have actually banned jumping from hotel balconies into swimming pools because so many people have got injured.
And damaging their spines and all that. But actually, what people are doing is they're jumping from balcony to balcony or they're losing their keys because they've gone out and got bladder. They try to climb up to their bedroom, they fall off the balcony. Or on one case that I studied this afternoon... You
studied it?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Did you?
You
just read it like everybody else?
I studied it in depth. The hotel, the balcony was built 3 feet high and then should have had a 2 feet rail on top of it.
Yeah.
They go in there bladderated, only just moved into the hotel room, go out and think there's a rail there to lean on. There isn't, bang, straight over. And in fact, funnily enough, that happened to a friend of ours, a photographer at the Express in Manchester. Yeah, it's Peter. Peter's
you don't have
name
to give his name.
Well, he's dead. He died after he fell off the balcony.
Did he?
And very sadly, he was a really nice lad, Peter, and I can't remember his surname now. But he went on he was a bit of a scuba diver. Well, actually, he was a mega drinker and a womanizer. Yeah. But he went on the grounds of he was going scuba diving to Malta. Yeah. But in fact, when he got there, he didn't even bother taking out the scuba diving suit. Just went out on the lash for
Well, none of this is helping me to understand why it is that we are always doing this kind of thing.
All I'm saying is he went out onto his balcony for the first time, went to lean on the railing. It hadn't been put in place properly. It gave way and he fell off. Yeah. It was terribly tragic. He died of head injuries.
No, I'm sure.
But he woke up. He woke up after about 2 hours of being in hospital, sat up in bed, started talking to his mate, literally, and started talking very coherently about, what are we doing in here? When are we going scuba diving? And then died. Boom. Fell back and died.
You told that story about somebody else.
Have I?
That couldn't have happened to 2 different people.
Well, it does happen. Those sort of things do happen.
That's 2 people you've told me about doing that.
Yeah, well, but no, what happens is people do sit bolt upright in bed.
You told me somebody sat bolt upright in bed when you were there.
Well, that was when they asked for a glass of sherry.
Yeah.
And they said, let's all have a drink before the lights go out tonight.
How bizarre.
And we all had a glass of sherry and then literally put the glass down and he fell back and died.
David from Clerkenwell says this. Porky wants to stop having a pop at footballers and concentrate on his ex-journalist colleagues. I can't remember an occasion when he mentions them without alcohol being involved. What a fine example they are when it comes to boozy. After all, many of them are brown bread at an early age.
Well,
very true.
I'm sorry, but that is history. There was nothing I could have done about it. I did try. I mean, as a leader of men, because I was the news editor of the Daily Express in the days when it was a great, great newspaper, I used to warn the other members of staff about serial excessiveness and bladderation, as we call it these days, and some took note, some didn't.
Well, it's a terrible situation. We want to hear from some of you out there. 08717 22 3344. You can tweet us at the 2 Mikes, at Mike Parry 8 and at IROMG. Coming up next, we've got loads more to do. Winners and losers coming up a little bit later on as well. This is Talk Sport. Losers coming up. I've got a couple of tweets for you here, Mr. Parry.
Yes, OK.
Mark says this at the 2 Mikes. Please remind Mr. Parry what he said on the 2 Mikes show. And this is a tweet that you sent out earlier over the weekend.
Right.
I'll go mad if Roy Hodgson starts Sterling ahead of Theo Walcott, and I'll berate him on the 2 Mikes show with my best Hodgson voice.
Yes.
That's what he says you said you would do, which you obviously haven't done yet.
Theo Walcott is a very good young man, very good young player. Raheem Sterling, I felt, was the man for the job.
Yeah, so that was not really berating him, was it?
No, but I mean, the very fact that I find I have to impersonate him and try and explain to the audience what the Hodgson thinking pattern is all about is a form of beration.
I think you may have overdone the lean ham yesterday, to be honest.
No,
Here's one from Jack, who says, MG, ask the residents of Bali about how Australians behave there, not just the Brits. I hate to agree with the Porkmeister. Well, I haven't been to Bali either, and I haven't seen Australians drinking in the same ways that I've seen English people drinking.
Oh, yes, we have.
But we've seen Australian people drinking heavily.
Hang on.
I've never seen an Australian guy lying face down in the street.
Oh, really?
Because he hasn't been able to kind of carry on.
You've never seen Steve Dunleavy, then?
So I've never seen
after a 24-hour session.
Steve Dunleavy was a man who drank very, very large amounts of alcohol.
Yes.
But I did not see him, and I do not see Australians in London either, completely off their faces. They drink heavily. Yes, they drink round the clock sometimes, but you don't see them in the same way, behaving in the way that you see Brits abroad do.
It's
That's
pretty
my point.
lively if you go to one of those Australian bars. What are they called, Australia?
Walkabout,
that's right, yeah.
Yeah, well, not everybody in there's Australian, though.
No, they get a lot of Australians in there. Most of the staff are usually Australian.
Yeah, I mean, when the Lions...
It's a good atmosphere. It's
when
great
the Lions
atmosphere.
when the Lions were on tour down under in Australia many years ago, I remember going to a walkabouts one morning. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning because the game was on, and so I wanted to watch it in Australia.
Where was this?
It was in London.
Right, okay.
And yeah, I mean, everyone was drinking, but there was nobody like getting to the point where they literally couldn't stand up.
No,
and that's the difference. That's my point.
Yeah,
you know, what we're talking about is Jack Grealish lying on the ground, completely off his face, and having his picture taken and put all over Twitter without his knowledge.
You're getting it all wrong, because you see, what you're saying, the Australians in London are generally speaking here because they have jobs here, they work here.
Yeah.
They're making a future here, they're making a life here. A lot of Australian people find that their own country, Australia, has limitations to how far you can expand your career.
Yeah.
That's why so many come here.
Well, no, a lot of them come here because they want to. Well, they're just going to work abroad and they go back.
Yeah. That's what I said. I mean, and then they go back and all that. Now, if they're pursuing a career, they're not going to get bladerated all the time. Whereas the people we're talking about in Magaluf and in Tenerife, where Jack Grealish was, and in even Dubai and places.
Well, you can't do it in Dubai. If you get public drunkenness in Dubai, they lock you up.
That's true.
So that's a bad example.
It's a bad example, but it does. But people do take lots of strong drink. I took a lot of strong drink when I was in Dubai.
Well, you take lots of strong drink wherever you go.
Well, that's not fair to say that. Well, what's
wrong with your eye, by the way?
I've got hay fever.
You've got hay fever?
Yeah, I have the onset of early middle-aged hay fever.
Well, you shouldn't get hay fever in the middle of a recording studio, which is sealed from the outside world.
I think there's a bit of flour dust in my face.
Flour dust?
Or in my eye. But anyway, look, getting back to it.
Very off-putting looking at you rubbing your eye like that.
Ayia Napa, that's in... Ayia Napa,
yeah.
That's in Cyprus.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to see the amount of people lying on the pavements there?
Yeah, and what country are they from?
Usually from Britain. But
well, that's what I mean.
But the point I'm making is these young people are there on holiday. The Australians in London, who behave themselves very well, are here pursuing careers, so they're not going to get bladerated, are they? They're going to have quite responsible people because they have a purpose in life.
An awful lot of them are working actually in bars, for heaven's sake. And here's one from somebody called Alan in East London. He says, "Oi, enough of the Anglophobia," which I'm not sure whether he means by that. He says, "I live in Newham in East London, and I see young Polish people regularly with cans of beer at 8 a.m. and littering the streets with them.
You go.
And year on year, binge drinking has consistently dropped in England. That's official. I don't know what official figures you're looking at, Alan, but binge drinking is the biggest single social problem in this country. And Polish people may well sit around in the morning drinking beer, but that doesn't mean that they're actually bladerated by 11 o'clock and lying on the street face down, which is what you see when you go to any resort anywhere in the world which has got lots of young English people going there. I find it amazing.
Do you know what? You can't believe crime figures in this country anymore. I read a report over the weekend which says that if crime figures were truly recorded as the crimes happened, there would be a 61% increase in this country in serious crimes on the official figures. You know why?
Why?
Because somebody can only be classified as being the victim of crime 5 times, and then that's it. It's 5 and you're out.
What you mean? It's a bit like sort of transferring your iTunes account. After 5 times, you can't be a crime victim anymore.
After 5 times, you cannot be registered as a victim of serious crime anymore.
Ridiculous.
So some people who've had 12 or 14. And you'd say, well, they'd be unlucky, but they happen in specialist areas.
Yeah.
For instance, domestic abuse, right? Now, a woman might call the police 12 times, and say, I've been beaten or, I've been attacked. And the first 5 times, it goes down as a serious crime. The next 7 don't. They're just not recorded.
But does it go, when it gets recorded as a crime that's reported as opposed to a crime that's actually happened?
No, it's not even registered on the official figures. I read the whole of the report. It was very worrying.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, they can do reported crimes, but I mean, the unreported crimes might not necessarily actually equate to crimes anyway, because people report all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And it's all about quangos and things, isn't it? Half this country's run by quangos, and the quangos have everybody in a grip of... I mean, it's a quango, right, that's just published a blinking report. You won't believe this. A blinking report I saw over the weekend on how to avoid damage from the sun.
Yeah.
And one recommendation was don't stand in sunlight. And another one was if you're feeling...
Put some UV factor on.
Yeah, seriously, if you're feeling hot and thirsty, drink water.
Yeah, good. That's good advice.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And that was produced by a quango, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the name of it now, but I will find it. And
it's the same as Keep Britain Tidy, which it sort of masquerades as a campaign, but basically is this quango that gets loads and loads of public money, and all these people speak up about how terrible it is to have litter in this country,
I totally agree.
Which it is terrible, but I don't
agree.
see what Keep Britain Tidy has got to do with actually fixing it.
Well, I totally agree. Here, this lot are called, what are they called? Heatwave Guide by the Quango Public Health England.
Public Health England?
Yeah,
right.
it says...
so that's part of the NHS then, isn't it?
I don't know. It's a quango. It is literally a quango. It says grow some trees near your windows for shade. Keep the sun out of your rooms.
Well, how long do they take to grow?
Yeah, exactly. It's a 43-page report, and it includes tips like 1, stay out of the sun. 2, open windows if it's hot. 3, wear a hat to protect your head and face. 4, drink cold drinks when thirsty. 5, take cold showers if you're hot. I mean,
it is incredible, isn't it?
It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. People get paid. Unbelievable.
I know. Here's one for you that I spotted over the weekend as well. This one I thought would appeal to you.
Okay.
This is something that's happening in Antwerp. I don't know if you've ever been to Antwerp, have you?
Antwerp's in Belgium.
It is indeed
so
in
I might
Belgium.
have been there.
It's a Belgian city. They've come up with a solution to the problem of pedestrians bumping into other people while sending text messages from their mobile phones. You know what they've done? They've actually set up a lane on the pedestrian on the sidewalk.
I saw that.
For people to walk, a bit like a cycle lane.
Yeah.
So if you want to walk and text at the same time, you walk in this lane and nobody walks the other way so that you can't bump into anyone. Yeah. Isn't that ridiculous? Isn't that the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard?
You'd think that really, rather than trying to cope with that problem, you'd solve the problem by telling people not to be irresponsible and walking around crashing into people because they're concentrating on the phone. But the phone, you see, as I've explained to you before, is going to be responsible for so many ills. You will lose eventually the trust of your dog, because when you take your dog out for a walk, you're always on the phone to me.
No, I'm not.
And that poor dog now is thinking,
no, I'm not
my
always on
owner
the phone
doesn't
to you.
care for me anymore. He's always talking into that strange piece of metal in his hand.
No, in fact, I deliberately try to
Perhaps
avoid
he's talking
speaking
to another dog.
No, I try to avoid speaking to you when I've got the dog, because the problem with having the dog, particularly where I take him, is that he's off the lead, so I need to be able to spring into action at any point and call him back if he's run after another dog.
You lost him and let him off the lead.
No, I didn't lose him. No, he just disappeared off at one point. Yeah, well, he wasn't actually, but it wasn't because I was talking to you, it was because I was playing with the kids.
Can't change history. By the way, I meant to say to you, because I knew we were going to be talking about Brits abroad, right? You read the story about a guy who got bitten to death by mosquitoes.
Bitten to death?
Yeah, in Laos.
No.
Laos.
Yeah.
The reason it's so very, very tragic is this guy wasn't on holiday, he's a volunteer worker. He went out there during his holidays, he's a lorry driver, I think, and to help, and he got bitten by a mosquito, and it's one of those 1 in a million chances the mosquito had some sort of terrible disease.
So he didn't get bitten to death. The way that you said that, it sounded as though he was kind of surrounded by millions of mosquitoes, and they literally bit him to death.
Hang on.
What you're saying is he got a mosquito bite, which he then died from.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's not. You see, you're going to
that's bitten to death.
No, it's not.
It is.
You see, you're going back to your days.
How did he die? He didn't die by drowning.
Yeah.
He didn't die by falling out of a tree. He died because he was bitten by a mosquito.
Yeah.
That, to me, is death by mosquito bite.
Yeah, but that's not so being bitten to death.
It is. It is. Of course it is.
You're not over the sun anymore. I mean, that's what you would have put as a headline.
No.
Bitten to death, wouldn't you?
No,
I'm
not misleading the audience in any way whatsoever. And anyway, it's a tragic story, and we shouldn't be debating the rights and wrongs of how it's reported. Just a terribly sad thing that this happens to people. And I just think you should know that.
Yeah, well, here's one from Luke, who says,
yes.
Will you shut up about this whole thing about Jack Grealish? He's 19. I was like that at Magaluf when I was 19. He's on holiday. But Luke, you're not a professional footballer.
Exactly, you're not a professional footballer, and people don't pay thousands of pounds a year to buy a season ticket to watch you play. What about this thing about Chelsea renovating their ground? 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years they're going to be renovating that. So where were they going to play then?
Well, I don't know where they'd go for 3 years. They'd have to rent a ground somewhere. They'd have to go up the M1 or something like that, I suppose. Yeah. But what I was going to say was, is that I don't understand in the modern day and age when we have so sophisticated methods of building things.
Yeah.
They're building a new tower block down near me in Stockbroker, Wells, Surrey. The rate at which it's going up is frightening.
Well,
I mean, it's almost like they're putting a new floor on a day.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because one of my biggest problems with this country, as you've heard me saying many times before, is the amount of time it takes to do any kind of major project.
Yeah.
You know, building roads seems to take 5 years, 10 years. Building buildings seems to take 2 or 3 years.
This is obviously a commercial venture, not a public highway thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not public money. It's not run by some public body who have to get 15, people to approve a decision just to paint a white line and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And this is good. So, what did I say that for?
You were talking about a tower block going up.
Yeah, tower block going up. What did I say that for? Oh, yeah, I was going to say, so go back to Chelsea's ground. I don't know why they can't build one side 1 year, one side 1 year. So over a 4-year cycle, they can redevelop the ground on 4 different sides. I don't know why they can't do that.
Well, maybe it's because they've got so many people. Like they've got, I think they were saying 42,000 capacity. I think it's Stamford Bridge at the moment.
Yes.
I mean, if they had to cut that in half, then that would obviously affect their revenues, which might not be a big problem for them. However, there may be the disruption. I mean, you know what Stamford Bridge is like.
Yes.
There's not a lot of room around it, is there?
There's loads of room
Not
around
really.
it.
No,
there is, if you think about it.
There's enough
room.
There's enough room to drive a lorry around that road.
Yes.
That goes around. That's about it. I mean, that's not very much room.
No, I think there's a load of room outside. I've never understood why Stamford Bridge have this problem about not being able to expand the site, because there is loads of what I would call car park space on that site. And they've already got an underground car park anyway. They're talking about going down, but all the players actually park their cars underneath.
But it would be too disruptive, I think, to be able to do all that while they were still playing football there. I think that's the problem.
I thought they could probably sort it out. But anyway...
But they've obviously given up on the idea of going to find an alternative site. Like they were at one point going to be looking at the Battersea Power Station, weren't they? That was one site they were looking at. That's now being redeveloped.
The other one was that run-down sort of concert venue place just down the road.
Earl's Court.
Earl's Court, that's it,
Yeah, and they're both being redeveloped for some other purpose, apparently.
Yeah.
A couple of tweets more to read out to you. Connor says this: no one should be paralytic like that, but at least he's drinking in the off-season and not midweek pre-game. Well, you say that, but,
Yeah, what a thing to say. Oh, he's getting bladderated, but, it's only a week after the season finished. Well, if he was getting like that during the season, he'd be off the books at Villa, I'm telling you that.
Yeah, exactly right.
What do we think about this new Rangers boss coming straight from Brentford to Rangers? That's an astonishing move for him. And I have to say, the boy's done well.
Well, he has done very well. I did think when I heard it this afternoon, or this morning, I think, on the Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast, when they were talking about David Weir being very much part of the furniture of Rangers and knowing everything about it. I was just imagining a conversation with David Weir and Mark Warburton where he was explaining to him exactly what it's like to be the manager of Rangers in Scotland in the midst of all the stuff that's going on, because it'll be quite a learning curve for him. But we'll talk some more about that.
He used to be an oil broker.
Yeah.
Warburton. Warburton.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, but he used to be a city trader.
Yeah, I know.
So he knows what he's doing.
I know, but he did very well at Brentford.
Well, now David Weir feels, being an international captain and former captain Rangers, actually is now a deputy assistant to a guy who he'll say, but he came from which club in England? You know what
Brentford.
I mean?
Yeah, well, they're not in the first division, are they? So, I mean, they should be lucky, thankful to get anybody at all, really. We are the two Mikes. He's Mike Parry. I'm Mike Graham. Winners and losers coming up later on in the show. Loads more to do. We've got Andy Gray coming up in the next hour as well. This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes. A couple of tweets and texts to read out. You can text us, of course, on 81089. Ben says this: MG, you are spot on, and Mike Parry is way off, as usual. What? During a stay in Zurich, I never saw any drunken disturbances except once in a beer garden. It soon became apparent the miscreants were English football fans. Local Swiss friends told me that the only time they see such scenes are when young English visitors are in the vicinity. Take a reality check, Porky.
Yeah, well, I did the old Euro Championships in Switzerland and Austria, and I didn't see any drunken fans there either. I mean, England weren't there, actually.
Well, there you go.
So that could have been one reason why.
But
they don't have a culture of drinking all that.
That's my point. That's exactly my point.
Yeah, okay, all right. We've talked enough about this. Now, listen, mate, it's Royal Ascot this week.
Yes,
okay?
it is, yeah.
You going?
Are you going?
No, I'm not going.
Oh, I'm not going either.
No, I find it a bit too aloof.
I quite like Royal Ascot, actually. I did go to Royal Ascot once. In the Daily Express box, I think, many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a great day. and won some money, I think it was. And I'm quite keen on Royal Ascot. But, I mean, the problem is because of the hours we work, it makes it a bit difficult to really go and enjoy yourself.
To be honest, I find it all a bit of aloofness, you know what I mean? I don't really ever feel comfortable there. And I've been a number of times, a few times with Mr. Brazil, and I've never had to dress up in the morning, sir, and I've been to the Royal Enclosure. Right. But the point I was going to make was, it is a very, very posh... in fact, it is the poshest sporting event in the world.
Do you think more posh than Henley?
Absolutely.
I don't think it's more posh than the regatta. Have you ever been to Henley?
Yeah, I have been to Henley.
Have you?
But the
When
Queen...
did you go to Henley?
Oh, years ago. But the Queen doesn't go to Henley, right? The Queen doesn't go to Henley. The Queen goes to Royal Ascot.
Yeah, and I think on the day that I went, on Saturday, it was the Queen Mother's Day.
Okay.
And that's which is generally thought to be the day when it's kind of less posh, isn't it?
Well, that's why it's called Royal Ascot, because it has royal patronage, you see. And it is, without doubt, the poshest in the world. I mean, all international businessmen who really want to swing a deal and all that will get a box at Ascot, you know what I mean, and invite the people round. Now, this brought me onto another piece of research I've been doing over the last week, and that is, and I just said to you earlier, didn't I, about the boy from Southampton, Ward Prowse? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, that's his name?
What, the one who doesn't drink?
Yes. Ward Prowse, yes?
Yeah,
James
that's right. Ward Prowse.
James
Well,
Ward Prowse,
I was telling you about him, actually.
Yeah, you were, yeah. And I was saying, he was a public school boy, so he's had a good education. Now, what I found out from my research was that companies in the City of London now apply poshness tests to those who they employ.
Yes, I saw something about this a bit earlier,
So that means that the old working class, barrow boys, they're called, these city traders, he's a barrow boy, he should be running a whelk stall on South Empire and all that. Apparently the openings for them are no longer there in the City of London.
When you look at those kind of surveys, though, do you not smell a slight rat as far as how they put it together? Because, when you look at who is in the top law firms in this country, when you look at who is in the top sort of accountancy firms and all that kind of thing, everything now is much more down to your education, shall we say. Yeah. Whereas when the Big Bang happened in the 80s, when Thatcher deregulated the markets for the first time, they just wanted people in the business that were clever and good at what they did and quick off the mark and who had fast brains and who could think, mathematically brilliantly.
That's right.
And a lot of people I knew went in and did that.
That's
Whereas
right.
I think now it's become very much more computerised, it's very much more corporate. Yeah. They're not looking for chances. People like Nick Leeson, for example, would never have got a job today.
No.
Than when he got a job years ago.
You don't have to go into what's called the bear pit and actually start trading and buying and selling shares at the right price and all that kind of stuff. Right. You're absolutely right. It's a split-second decision on a screen. But listen, this was put together by the Social Mobility and Child Poverty Commission. Yeah. It says it's an independent body, but I imagine it's another sort of quango.
Well, when you
see
social mobility, you see the idea that they're trying to point out that people who are not socially mobile is some kind of problem, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but anyway, they say leading law, financial services and accountancy firms in the square mile, for the benefit of our listeners who don't have to suffer living in London, the square mile is the City of London, where all the financial institutions prosper, and the tower blocks are going up there at an alarming rate.
There's an awful lot of building, by the way, going on. Because I was driving around London again a lot over the weekend, and there's an incredible amount of building going on.
Awful amount of building. And they say that those elite firms are systematically excluding candidates if they're not middle or upper class. 70% of job offers go to graduates now educated at selective state or fee-paying schools, OK? Yeah. That's how it's become. Bosses admitted favouring applicants who joined experience, who had enjoyed experience such as travelling, who had been to the top Russell Group of universities.
Oh, yeah.
You know what that is?
No, I don't.
Well, it's the Russell Group of universities.
Well, what is the Russell Group of universities?
Well, it's a collection of universities collectively known as the Russell Group.
You don't know, do you?
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
They're elite universities.
They're private universities.
No, they're elite.
Well, they're not elite. They're
yes,
just
they are.
private.
No, they're not private. They're not private.
Well, it's not the Russell, University College London. It's
not
the Russell,
it's Oxford and Cambridge, along with Durham, London.
Right. London which?
Yeah, London
I've
College.
never heard the phrase before.
London.
I'm going to have to look it up now.
Oakland, is it? London College? No.
University College London.
University College London, that's the one. University College London, Oxford, Cambridge, Durham, and I think the other one is St Andrews. Right. I think it's St Andrews.
No, I think you're wrong.
No, I think I'm right.
The Russell Group, here it is here.
Yes.
The Russell Group is some kind of a group joining together of various universities.
There you go.
About us. Let's see what it says.
I just told you that.
The Russell Group is a member organisation supported by a small team and led by Dr. Wendy Piat, Director General and Chief Executive Officer. It represents 24 leading UK universities committed to maintaining the very best of research and outstanding teaching and learning experience and unrivalled links with business and the public sector.
That's what I just told you.
Yeah.
That's what I just told you.
Well,
so why'd you doubt me?
Well, because I doubt everything you say.
You never heard it because you're not in the know. You're not in the know. But anyway, look, this says This research was done, interviews with bosses at 13 companies responsible for 45,000 of the best jobs in the country, and the point is now you've got to be posh or middle class to get a job there.
Well, here's a list of the universities, and I would challenge you to say that not everybody who goes to these universities is necessarily posh. University of Birmingham, University of Bristol, University of Cambridge, Cardiff University, Durham University, University of Edinburgh,
told you about all
University of Exeter, University of Glasgow, Imperial College London, King's College London, University of Leeds, University of Liverpool, LSE, University of Manchester, University of Newcastle, University of Nottingham, interestingly.
Yes, exactly.
But not Trent Poly,
no,
however.
No, University of the Trent.
No, it's University of Nottingham, which is a different one, right? University of Oxford, Queen Mary, Queen's University Belfast,
Why
University of Sheffield,
University
of Southampton, University College London, University of Warwick, University of York. Well, I'm now telling you who they are.
Yeah, but I told you all those before you read that endless list out. All the ones I named, University College London, Durham, St Andrews, are all in Oxford and Cambridge are all included. Anyway, listen, I'm delighted to say that I found some response here from the former Tesco chief, Sir Terry Leahy. Also known as an Everton fan.
Also known as an Everton fan. Yeah, what's he doing now?
To me in the director's box. He's now running that cut price chain of stores based in the north, large in the north. They're called Bargain something.
Not
BMW or something. No, not Wilkins.
BMW?
Not BMW.
I don't think it's BMW.
Obviously, BWA, I think, or something like that. I can't remember. Right. But anyway, he's doing very successfully there because he's Britain's leading retailer. Right. But anyway, he said, we've got to smash a glass ceiling on this sort of thing. Finding the best people for the job
I agree.
rather than focusing on whether they went to the right school is rubbish.
I think that's absolutely right.
He said, when I was growing up, I was taught that if you worked hard enough, you could achieve anything you wanted, wherever you wanted, whatever advantages other people might have. I think that is true. In fact, I think that's the story of my life. And he says, it's an attitude that took me from Liverpool council estate to being the chief executive of Tesco for 14 years. So I'm glad he pointed that out, because that is exactly a success story.
There's nothing good about just limiting, who you employ down to one particular group of people at all.
I totally agree with you.
But the problem is, in this country, there's always been the possibility of going to a decent university. The part of the big problem is that a lot of the schools that people who you might say come from poorer backgrounds go to are just not very good schools, and so they don't get encouraged to go to university.
Yeah.
And, so they're not doing it in as big numbers. The other thing I think is that also lots of people go to university now and study things which are of no use to them.
No,
so they can't become accountants.
I totally agree.
They can't become traders.
I totally agree.
They come out with like a media studies degree.
Which Institute of Higher Education has the most successful media courses in the country?
I wouldn't know that.
The University of the Trent.
Yeah, does it?
It does.
Really?
It does.
But you didn't do a course there, funnily enough.
No, and by the way, I don't think that's a huge boast, because I think most kids who've gone media training courses at university waste their time.
Yeah.
They should go and get straight into the business. And I was delighted to read over the weekend the government is now taking my advice, because I do have friends in high places in this country, and they are going to start curtailing the number of university places, particularly those for useless degrees, as we'd call them, and replace them with apprenticeships in the basic trades of plumbing, bricklaying, plastering, woodworking, and everything else. It's a brilliant idea. We should have done it years ago. I've been advocating this for a decade or more, and now I'm being listened to.
Thank goodness for that. He's Mike Parry, I'm Mike Graham.
Yes.
We've got loads more coming up. Andy Gray, stories on the back pages about Grealish this morning. We'll go through some of those in a little while, but also the tennis is on as well. But we're going to talk football now with a man who knows an awful lot about it. Legend of your club, Everton, Mr. Andy Gray, who I believe is over in Florida. Andy, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Hold on, you've surprised me there, boys. We're talking football or baseball?
Yeah, we're talking football, baseball, whatever you want to talk about. Are you in Florida?
I am. I'm just at a game here. I'm at a baseball game for the first time in my life. I've come to watch I think they're called the Miami Marlins.
Oh, yeah.
Who are actually entertaining one of the most famous baseball teams in history, the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
So they've come into town to play. So an uncle of my wife said, do you want to go and watch the baseball? I thought, I'll go and do that. And just as I walked up here to talk to you two, the Marlins went 2-1 up.
Well, that's brilliant. And by the way, Andy, don't leave any time soon, mate. There's at least 9 innings left, so you have to get used to sticking around a bit for those. But at least they serve you beer to your seat.
Oh, they do, but I've had to come upstairs to get this beer, lad. So the good thing is that I'm happy with that. But what I want to know is, what is Parry doing up at this time? He should be in his bed.
Yeah, well, we've managed to get we've managed to get the restrictions lifted on the old restraining order, right?
That's
so we managed to get him out, and as long as he's confined to the studio during the hours of 1 and 4, he's allowed to be here. But he was very excited to know you were coming on the show because, apart from anything else, he's very keen on the idea that Gerard Deulofeu, or however you pronounce his name, is likely to be coming to Everton for the new season.
Is he?
Yeah, well, you know the lad we had from from Barcelona. Well, the deal is this, Andy. It's a clever deal. It looks like he's going to come for €3 million, but with a very distinctive clause in the deal that if he improves substantially over the next 2 years, as fast as he improved when he was here last time, Barcelona can buy him back for the same amount of money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's a no-lose situation for our club then, Michael, I think.
Indeed. Indeed.
You know, if the kid does improve, if he does improve and if he does make Everton better, and Everton needs someone at that end of the pitch.
Yeah.
It has to be said to support what Lukaku does and others.
Yeah.
And absolutely, but are you really happy about that, Michael? Is it something that's excited you to that you feel that we're getting better?
Well, I'm very happy about it, Andy, because I'm very much on the side of Mr. Kenwright, whose policy is we can't spend money we haven't got. And I don't want to go down the route of Leeds United ruining the club and all that kind of stuff. So I realise we have to be frugal in the way we use our money. But what I really want to know, Andy, from you is, do you believe in second-season-itis? Because that's what I think happened to Mr. Martinez last season. And I remember Davy Moyes' second season at Everton. That also left us down in 17th place. But then, the next season after that, we qualified for the only time for the Champions League. So can Everton bounce back next season with the array of players they've got now, with Mr. Martinez knowing a bit more about them and putting them in place?
I honestly don't know, Mike. I'd like to think yes. I mean, I was up, sadly, recently in Merseyside at Andy Kingston Road and talking to a lot of the lads. We all got together, Reedy, Kevin Ratcliffe, Sharpie, myself, and we were talking directly about that situation. What do we expect next year? And I think we were all a little undecided. None of us quite knew what to expect. You know, the Europa League is always a good excuse for any side who doesn't really perform the season they're in it. And they've used that, I think, Everton, we've used it, as a good excuse for our failings in the league. I'm not so sure that's the truth, Mike. I really mean that. So I would expect Everton to be much, much better than they were. I think that they have to be. I think Everton fans will demand it, and I think that Everton fans should demand it. It's not great when you see, listen, and they've done brilliantly, and I can't complain about what they've done, but you can't be good if you're an Everton fan and you see Southampton playing the way they're playing, up at the top end of the league, and Everton, most of the season, we've been floundering in the bottom half. So that's not easy to take if you're an Evertonian and you've seen us qualify for the Europa League the season before. So I think Roberto has to realise that, yes, he got away with one last year, I think, Mike, but in this season coming up, he's got to find some players. He's got to find a way of playing. I think we do play too much passing for passing's sake, if I was being ultra-critical of the way Everton play at the moment.
Yes.
And I think that if he finds a way of playing and a way of giving Everton fans what they want, then I hope that everything works out for us. But I'm not, as I stand here, 100% convinced that that's going to happen.
Okay. You've really depressed him now. He's just going, his whole face is his whole
demeanour
demeanour has changed.
Listen, I'm not. I mean, I'm talking to you where having spoke to Graham Sharp, Kevin Ratcliffe, Peter Reid, talking to the guys. What do you expect next season? And a lot of the guys like me just don't know. I think we want Everton to be continually in the top 6 in the league and top 8 at worst, and pushing for European places. That's what Everton should be aiming for. And I'm a bit worried when you say, well, we're not going to spend money we haven't got, because, listen, I know that's frugal, I know that's what it is, but it's not going to get us back up there. Not on a season-by-season basis, and I'm a little bit worried about that.
Yeah, I think you're quite right to be worried about it. But the good news for Mr. Parry is that he'll be practising the pronunciation of Mr. Deulofeu's name throughout the entire season, and he'll get it right probably about next July or something. But let me ask you about Jack Grealish, Andy, because he's all over the back pages again. I presume you've probably seen the picture of him from Tenerife lying flat out, sort of blotto on his back, taken by somebody, put up on Twitter. Aston Villa not very happy about it because, of course, Tim Sherwood's already said after the last incident where he was found to be smoking that nitrous oxide, this is not the way for a player to behave. there seems to be a bit of a split. I'm saying, isn't it sad that he's behaving like every other kind of 19-year-old out there? It seems to be a problem that we have in this country. It's hard maybe for people to understand why he should be treated differently, but as a footballer, surely he should be treated differently.
Do you know what, guys? I'm kind of torn here. I was a 19-year-old once and a footballer, and I'm probably, if I'm being totally honest, quite like Jack Grealish. And the summer, I think I might have spent some of my holidays at some time or other lying, having had one or two drinks more than I would have liked to on a holiday, unwinding and relaxing and trying to chill. But I never had to worry about someone taking a picture on a mobile phone and selling it to a paper to cause a problem. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. He's a 19-year-old. He's going to make a mistake. Is it a mistake? Are we not allowing now our 19-year-old footballers to relax, to chill? Are we going to say that you can never do that, guys, in the close season, even when you are entitled to just chill a bit and relax, that you've got to be saint-like in every moment of your life and every minute of the day and every month of the year, even when you're off-season? I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing that most of the players who are not involved in these the Copa Americas that play in our league and are holidaying have had one or two drinks more than they would have liked to. But sadly, with social media the way it is these days, guys, that anyone who does that now is going to get caught. He's a 19-year-old kid. Is he not entitled to have a few drinks too much? You'll get some people in the game saying he's got plenty of time to drink when he's finished playing. I get that. But it's very hard to tell him to do that. And he's not the only 19-year-old footballer who's got a talent who's had too much to drink this summer. Sadly for Jack, he's been captured on I'm assuming a mobile phone, and he's now plastered all over the papers and being criticised for it. It's a tough one to sit on the fence with.
Sure.
At times, and I don't like to sit on the fence. If I was his manager, if I was him, I would probably get him in and say, listen, Jack, life is different now. It's different from when Tim Sherwood played. It's different when I played. You have to be more responsible. I know it's unfair to ask you to be sober every night and not have a drink when you want to, because there's nothing wrong with having a drink at the right times for professional footballers. So be careful, be more aware, and be more responsible. And I think that's the way they have to go.
Yeah, I think you're
footballers
right.
nowadays don't have the luxury that I enjoyed when I played football. So I'm sorry that the big salaries, the almost film-like adulation that follows footballers these days means that you have to behave yourself a little bit better than in my time. So Jack will have to learn to do that.
Yeah, indeed. And Andy, very quickly, mate, without intruding on your business plans and all that, we're going to see a bit more of you back over in Blighty, maybe, in the forthcoming season?
Well, I'm not so sure. I'd like to think so. I mean, I'll be working, I'm back from here, back to the UK at the beginning of July after the Copa America. Great. When it's finished here, we're working for beIN Sports in Miami, Richard and I at the moment. So we're here doing that for beIN Sports. And the tournament's just beginning to bubble up into quite an exciting affair. So looking forward to the end of that. Then back home for a month. And then I'm heading back to Doha, beginning of August, ready for the Premier League to start again. And hopefully watching an Everton side climb up that league and excite us all with exciting football.
We very much hope so, Andy. And great to talk to you, mate. Thank you very much indeed for giving us your time tonight. Hope it all goes well for you in the US of A.
Thank you, guys, and I've just got back now. I've probably missed all the home runs ever hit because I'm
It's only the bottom of the eighth.
loyalist.
It's only the bottom of the eighth. You'll be fine. You've got another couple of innings to go. Andy Gray there reporting to us from Florida, watching the Miami Marlins. You ever seen a baseball game in your time when you lived in New York?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever go? Where did you go?
We used to go and see the Yankees a lot. Used to go with young Jane. And,
did you?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I got up there. And
the personal assistant at Express Newspapers' New York office.
Exactly, New York Bureau, actually, we used to call it in those days.
Right.
And it was the first time I've ever been to a stadium where, when we were kids, there used to be a woman who used to go to the front of the house at the cinema with a tray round her neck selling ice creams. people walking around at the Yankee Stadium selling beer in the same fashion.
And peanuts and stuff. They would just throw the peanuts.
Yeah, exactly.
And hot dogs.
And all that kind of stuff. And just have a marvellous day out. And it would go on for hours and hours and hours. And a lot of people, because the stadium is built with so much space around everybody, a lot of people weren't even watching the game. They're having picnics, literally, in the stands, and all the hot dogs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, no, it's a great experience. Loved
great
it.
American pastime.
Yeah.
Indeed. He's Mike Parry. I'm Mike Graham. We've got winners and losers coming up in a little while. Lots more to come. This is TalkSport.
Deul fell.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out. That'll be one of your favourite songs, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Why? I'm standing as the man. I'm looking at the man in the mirror. You spend a lot of time looking in the mirror, don't you?
No, but I'm introspective. I'm constantly examining myself to try and make myself a better person.
How's that going?
It's going well.
Do you think you're a better person now than you used to be, or worse?
Oh, without doubt. Without doubt. I examine
What makes you think you're a better person?
Because I now show much more consideration and time for my fellow man than I used to.
You concede that there was a time when you didn't show any consideration for your fellow
when I
man.
was climbing that greasy pole to the top of the media business.
You didn't care about anybody else, did you?
Well, it wasn't that. It's just that, instinctively you have to sort of be quite selfish about the way you approach things. But look, I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what it is, right. I'll tell you what it is. I've said to you in the past, I won't go to these school reunions and all that. And you've said to me, well, that's because you want to find anyone who's done better than you in life.
That's true. I agree. I believe that.
It's not true. It's just I don't want to spend endless hours explaining to people what I've done for the last 35 years since I last saw them.
Don't you think they would stand like butterflies around jam?
Probably.
In kind of admiration of you?
Probably, because I am now officially going to go and lecture some people at the King's School Chester next year in the...
What?
At the end of their academic year and careers
some
thing.
pupils, you mean?
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to.
They've asked you to go there.
As a
scraping the barrel a bit, isn't it?
A career plan thing. Not at all. I think.
What are you going to tell them?
Well, I'm going to tell
them. Involve yourself in rat-like cunning.
Yeah.
Betray as many people as you possibly can.
No.
Clamber over anyone that gets in your way.
No. I'll just give them a few of my motives. You only get out of life what you put into it.
Right.
If you're not
very
winning,
original, is it?
If you're not winning, it's probably because you're not trying hard enough. And be single-minded in your pursuit of excellence. No. Okay, they're my three mantras in life.
Those are your three mantras.
Yeah, them three mantras. But anyway, look, what I found out was, because I wanted to study all this, get my head in the right place. Is that
Can I come? Because I'd like to come and witness this.
I didn't mind if you did come. You ought to sit in the front seat there so they could laugh at you and while they're listening to me.
Skulk around at the back.
Yeah. But anyway, look, what I've discovered is one of the reasons that some people don't go to these sort of reunions is because of comparison anxiety.
Comparison anxiety.
It's a new condition, honest to God.
Really? So I was right then?
It's grown up in the last 10 years. And for instance, and I've seen this happen so many times. When like with our friends in New York, I mean, most of them had an apartment in Manhattan and then a house upstate or in the country somewhere.
Although that became something they did latterly, wasn't it?
Well, it was.
Because suddenly one of them did it, then they all did it.
Yeah, but the problem was, don't you remember, whenever one couple arrived at the other couple's home, I mean, they had nothing good to say about it at all. They just sort of nod and say, plain to... And then as soon as they got away, they'd moan to everybody else it was a dump and it wasn't, And it's called comparison anxiety because they didn't want anybody to think their second home was better than theirs, eh?
Yeah, but people are very envious of other people,
Yeah, people are very envious. But anyway, look, I trace this right the way back, right? And this goes back to before I was born. 1953, a psychologist called Leon Festinger...
Leon Festinger came up with a social comparison theory. He argued that we compare ourselves with others in order to get a sense of status and identity in life. Okay? But that's all about your life, then, isn't it?
No,
that's exactly what you do.
Hang on. We either look upwards to people who are more successful and make ourselves feel better by trying to appeal to, to achieve what they have, or we look downwards at people who might be lower in the pecking order, and looking down helps us to feel better about ourselves because we're elevated. But looking up,
this is exactly you. This is you.
Looking up produces only envy and misery.
But this is you, isn't it?
None of that's
me.
I
wouldn't say you're envious. I wouldn't say you're envious of people who are in higher social status than you, but you do kind of grovel and crawl to them. And you call them, Mr. When you feel like somebody deserves your respect. But everybody else who's below you is not worthy of even your contempt. Everybody's heard you describing people who travel in what you call goat class on planes as some kind of lower species than you. You've all heard how you've got your snobbishness regarding your car. By the way, a lot of people saw your jacked up car over the course of the weekend where you claimed that I'd somehow cursed it.
Well, you have cursed it.
Well, I haven't heard the story
yet. Ever since I started working back with you, I've had 3 punctures. And by the way...
Well, why did they have to take the wheel off?
to repair the tyre.
Have they repaired it? Well, they're giving you a new tyre.
No, it's repaired it. And what's more, that tyre's already had a plug put in it. So there's 2 plugs in that tyre now.
So what was wrong with it this time?
It's got a screw in it.
A screw?
Literally.
Are you sure somebody's not throwing these down in front of your car?
I don't know, but it's the same wheel as last time.
And where did you get that done? Was that back at the Merc dealer then?
Quick Fit.
Oh, you went to Quick Fit?
Went to the Quick Fit fitter.
All right,
and
the same guy?
The same guy who did the previous 2 did this one.
You must think you're pretty unlucky.
He's a great guy, and he does it for me so quickly. £26.50.
Very good.
Plus a bit of a bung for the
But the thing that most people noted about your car was how horrible it was, basically. They all went, it's like entry-level Mercedes. Absolutely horrendous-looking thing.
No,
I mean, you talk about it as if it's some kind of, S-class, very expensive car.
It's a Mercedes saloon. I will admit that I'm changing it soon because I feel that...
well, you need to get a car that doesn't get so many punctures.
Doesn't match my
But anyway,
status,
the point about this study that you're talking about, right, is that this is absolutely you to a T, because you are snobbish about people who you regard as lower than you.
I'm not
like,
at
for
all.
example, the people you've described before as the scumbags who live in council estates,
I'm
right?
not at all.
And you are very, very sort of deferential to people who are above you, whereas I treat everybody the same. That's the thing that I learned from my father.
Yeah.
He said, it doesn't matter who they are, whether they're poor, whether they're rich, whether they're, landed gentry, whether they're people you work with.
Yeah.
You treat everybody the same, and that's what I do.
But I don't think you can treat everybody the same.
Of course you can.
Some people are worthy of my respect, some are not. Some are not.
But what makes you think that
people
you
are
can,
winners and achievers in life. I like to feel myself as part of their clan. But if people are losers and deadbeats in life and dropouts and those who don't try hard enough and expect the world to owe them a living, I don't want to be part of that culture.
Yeah, but
I do not want to be part of that culture, and I will not get sucked into that culture.
But don't you see that that's a very odd way to proceed?
No, it's not. Everybody should proceed like that.
No, they shouldn't.
You should leave the deadbeats behind. We shouldn't set up a system in this
but
country.
Who do you think made you the boss to decide who's a deadbeat and who's a deadbeat?
Well, that was my own dynamic passage through life that gave me that.
There's loads of people who choose a different path in life who decide that they're not going to be...
but I don't have to support them. I don't believe that
you
morally
don't have to support them.
or financially...
Nobody's asking you to support
I should
them.
have to... Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
They do. Loads of people who work in jobs where they're pen pushers, basically. Some of them in local authorities and that sort of thing. Not the majority. The majority are good, hard-working people.
Really?
But there are a few who hide behind a desk and don't do a lot. I support them by paying vast amounts of council tax.
Well, you don't pay any more council tax than the person living next door to you.
A third of which now goes on the pensions for people who work in local authorities. It's a damn calumny.
Yeah.
But anyway, look, what happens here in this comparison, MB.
Yeah.
What happens is we can use our comparison anxiety as a signal of what we need to improve. Okay. It says you should notice what you notice. That's clever.
What do you mean, notice what you notice?
Well, you should, when you're noticing things, you should note that. You know what I mean?
I don't know what you mean.
That you are noticing
so what
things.
if you noticed, for example, today?
What have I noticed today?
What have you noticed today that you should take note of?
Let me see. What have I noticed today? I've noticed today that I think postmen in this country do not get a high enough status in our society. They're invaluable to our nation. They work incredibly hard. It's an active physical job. They go out in all sorts of weathers. Yeah. And yet we seem to regard a postman's job as something that is not, not terribly...
No, but you see, that's because of you. You in your mind, because you would say that postmen are not particularly well paid, because
well, I think you should be paid more.
To you, it's a sort of a manual job. You would have less respect for somebody like that than you would, say, for someone who's driving around in a big Ferrari, because you think they're a winner.
No, I've got huge respect for postmen, and I think they deserve a greater status in society. But
so that you can look up to them instead of looking down on them, you mean? That's what you mean, isn't it?
I think we should all be equal. I think everybody should own a Mercedes. That's exactly what Brian Clough used to say.
Absolute rubbish.
If it makes you anxious seeing somebody else blissfully happy... Yeah. Then you've got a problem in life.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, you get anxious when you see anybody being blissfully happy, because as you've admitted before, you're not a very happy person. You can't be happy, can you?
And by the way, according to this report from 1953, it can be triggered by all sorts of tiny things. For instance, if you see a friend of yours suddenly start losing weight, something that you've had an ambition to do for 2 or 3 years, but you've never done anything about it.
I've got an ambition to lose weight.
Then that makes you terribly jealous. And then you have to make changes in your own life to try and compensate for it. One of the worst, we'll all know about this in offices, is if a colleague gets a promotion, it is a kick in the gut to you if you've not received equal recognition at work. Yeah. It means you're frustrated at work, you use the negative emotion to get positive insight, or you should use the negative emotion to get positive insight into what's making your mind work. That's what they're saying.
Yeah,
okay?
I think you should get in touch with the people who authored this report and ask them to give you a special kind of personal version of it, because I think this sums you up to a T. All of your problems can be summed up by this anxiety, comparison anxiety, because you're constantly comparing yourself to other people.
I'm not.
You are. In your mind, you are.
I don't go around boasting that I'm.
You see somebody with a better car than you.
Off, or,
you do. You see somebody with a better car than your own,
yes,
and you feel inadequate.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
I don't. What I do is.
Well, you should feel inadequate driving that rubbish around.
And, well, this is not 13 years old, is it? This hasn't got dents all over the bonnet because I can't be bothered to fix them,
Yeah.
At least it's, got tyres that are so worn down that you can see almost, the threadbare
you're the one who's had
material
the
on the inside.
3 punctures in, how many, 2 years?
Yeah, but that's because...
I think you got dodgy tyres.
I think somebody keeps throwing nails or screws on the my tyres or something like that. But, only to the extent where I say to myself, I tell you what, I think I will upgrade my car. Now, that's not comparison anxiety.
Yeah, it is, because you're embarrassed by the car.
No, that is comparison positive.
Right.
I am comparison positive, and there's a big difference, okay?
Now, here's a couple of tweets for you before we just stop for a moment. One from Stephen. He says, hang on, I thought Mike Parry was a Band D council tax payer. Riff-raff, he says.
What do you mean?
And then Frazzle. Well, you posted your council tax bill.
Yes,
and it was Band D, so it's not exactly top of the range, is it?
Well, hang on. I keep telling you, I've got lots of small homes, not one big one.
No, okay.
I don't live in a stately home, do I?
No, of course not. Frazzle says this. At the school, Mr. Parry could draw a map on the blackboard to show the cross-country runners the route through the forest to the pub.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That'd be helpful, wouldn't it?
It was actually, by the way, I saw
we haven't
some
got time.
dreadful reportage over the weekend of woods that are being cut down all over the place because these nutters at the National Trust, sorry, I mean that, not that you're mentally ill or anything, but I mean the sort of extraordinary decisions you're making, is to cut down a load of local woods and use it to supply all these people who've now got wood-burning stoves in their homes.
Okay.
Because they say it's ecologically better, but it's not. It's pumping all sorts of stuff into the atmosphere and denying us of local copses and woods. What are you laughing at?
You're talking absolute gibberish. Anyway, look into the light for a moment. Check the time because it is that time. We've got to go away for a moment. Lots more to come though here on TalkSport. This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the Two Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out, of course, a little bit later on. You can also go and follow us on Twitter at the Two Mikes. We will be doing winners and losers. You have to look out. I don't know whether you've decided tonight whether you want to be favourited or retweeted. It is 7-1. You want to be retweeted?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we did last week. I just don't want you to complain about it. What we'll do, as ever, is we will start the winners and losers. At the end of winners and losers, I'll open the voting, and it will stay open until midnight tonight, basically, which is what we did to keep it fair for everybody, basically.
Exactly.
Because I don't want you complaining that, the whole thing's been gerrymandered. We have to think of a quiz subject this week as well.
Oh, no, I've got that.
Have you?
Because I did so brilliantly well in the Colombo quiz.
You did do very well in the Colombo quiz.
I did very well in it, and yet you still denied me my
you got 4 out of 10,
success.
which is higher than normal.
Utter rubbish. I got at least 7, but you switched the questions as usual.
No.
What I was going to say to you was, this week it will be on another TV detective programme, which I'm also an expert, The Sweeney.
The Sweeney?
Yes.
You want to do a quiz on The Sweeney?
Yes, definitely.
This is becoming like a TV quiz then.
Well, it doesn't matter. You asked me, which subjects I'm on top of, and I've told you.
All right.
It's going to be The Sweeney,
All
okay?
right, I'll write that down. I'll pass it on to the independent quizmasters.
Yep.
It's quite a challenge for them to come up with all these questions on one show.
Why?
Well, just because it's
not one show, it's one series.
It's not a very broad area.
And it is legendary. Absolutely legendary.
Yeah, it is. A very good show. No problem at all. Now, Temptation was the name of that song that we just heard. Because you found another study about adultery.
Well, no. Look, you're making out to the listeners. I spend all day just going around finding out all these research reports.
Yeah, well, that's what you do, isn't it?
No.
Well, in between going to the pub.
No. They come to me in conversation with people in society over the weekend and all this kind of stuff.
All right.
Have you ever heard of a website called illicitencounters.com?
I have, yes. Yeah, they're very good at doing their own PR. They always get their name in the paper.
I talked to somebody over the weekend about it. Apparently, they've got involved with it. And
got involved with it? In what way?
Well, they use the facility.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, it's just a married person that you know.
Yes.
So don't give it a name out.
No, I won't.
You
definitely
not do that.
Definitely not. And apparently 2 million people use this site.
Yeah.
And it's all about putting married people in touch with married people to have illicit affairs which don't threaten their marriage.
Yeah.
So they're, it's all like people give false names and all that kind of stuff.
I'm always slightly sort of dubious when I see stories about how well they're doing, because what they are very good at, it would seem, is getting their names in the papers and getting the sort of brand name out there. Well, how much of this stuff is actually going on, I don't know.
Well, I looked it up, when somebody had this conversation with me, and they portray adultery as sexy and natural.
Right.
That's what they describe it as.
What?
Sexy and natural.
They describe what as that?
Illicit encounters.
Sexy and natural?
Yeah, they say that adultery is sexy and natural,
right.
Okay?
Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? I suppose.
Eh?
I suppose they would say that, wouldn't they?
Also,
they're selling.
They although it's called illicit encounters, they've sort of rebranded it as married dating service.
Oh,
okay,
yeah. Right.
So it's a dating service for people who are already married, and then there's all sorts of other offspins now. Affairs club, no strings attached.
Yeah.
Well,
more and more people now meet each other online. There's no doubt about that. Whether they're married or whether they're single. For example, when you were in the market, which I know you're not really now anymore in the market from the first Mrs. Parry.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Well,
you never know.
I know, but if you were
there's a few women who got their eye on me. I can tell you that. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Really?
And
They've only got the one eye.
I have to be very careful about. What?
They've only got the one eye, have they? Columbo style.
I mean, why are you making silly
Well, it just
jokes
occurred
like
to
this?
me when you said women have got
really?
their eye.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, there's a particular pub that I have to be very careful about going into.
Don't name the
these
pub.
days. No, I won't name the pub because one
What's
young
going
lady
on in the pub then?
who works behind the bar there is, it's obvious. It's just obvious.
What's obvious?
Well, her attraction to me.
Really?
Yeah, it is. Honestly,
You don't mind when she talks to you, presumably.
No, not at all.
That's all right. You don't
no.
go. Would you mind not talking to me?
No,
when
not
she asks
at all.
you how your day is going.
No.
Well, why don't you just go and act on it then?
Well, there's a lot of considerations there.
Is she married?
Are things too close to home? No, she's not actually.
Well, she wouldn't be very
she's
interested
separated.
then, would she?
But anyway, there we go. The other thing is, there's also an explanation here to say. Life is short, have an affair.
Yeah.
Now, is that really the way to sell something that could split up a marriage? Because you see, although you've accused
this is pretty good coming from you,
Well,
since
hang on.
you've dated so many married women.
I have dated married women in the past, but I've never dated a married woman who had children. I always...
Oh, you draw the line at that, do you?
I do, definitely, yeah. I always only went out with married women, if they didn't have children,
Right.
and usually they'd only been married about 18 months.
Right.
They'd suddenly found that actually marriage wasn't what they thought it was, and that's why they came to me, to sort of spice up their lives, you see what I mean? That sort of thing.
So how would you go about discovering whether these people had children then?
Well, I knew. I mean, you know the woman you're going out with, don't you? And
well, not necessarily.
Sometimes it's in a working environment.
Well, it was always in a working environment. That's my
well,
point.
in that case, you'd know the background.
It was always somebody who was subordinate to you
No.
as well.
No.
But if you met somebody, say, at a bar, right, and she happened to be married, and she
Yes.
told you she was married,
Yes.
you'd have to find out some other way as to whether or not she had children, wouldn't you?
I'd usually ask her, wouldn't I?
Yeah, so you'd ask her if she had children.
Yeah, that's right.
Straight out.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And if she said yes, you'd walk away.
I would, yes, definitely.
Well, out
definitely.
of respect for the kids, you mean?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, definitely. Oh, yes, absolutely,
What a
definitely.
good-hearted person you are.
Well, I am. Some of these other sites, Mike, describe these illicit, not necessarily the one illicit encounters, but these the married people going out with each other. Is it just harmless hanky-panky? Another step towards the liberation of our society? Well, others would say
it's not really,
no.
is it? No, it's not harmless. That's the problem. But I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that plenty of people who are married have affairs. I think the statistics on that are very, very clear.
Yes.
But I mean, whether or not any of them actually use these particular sites, I don't know. But what I was going to say to you is that say for example, had the kind of online business been what it is now, when you were seeing a lot of women, you might have been somebody who would have used an online dating site, because nowadays it's not considered in any way to be strange or weird. Lots of people do it,
Well, yeah, I totally agree, but I don't think I would. I don't
think I would either.
I've never used an internet site for anything because it's anonymous. You know what I mean? I certainly wouldn't try and arrange to meet women through a dating site because, in my view, there is so much possibility of the information that that you are reading being totally false, a bit false, exaggerated, or somehow corrupted. You know what I mean?
Right.
By a third party, that you couldn't possibly rely on any of the information that was there. So I wouldn't. Funnily enough, there's a plot in Coronation Street just a couple of weeks ago about a.
Was this about the fire?
No. This is about Eileen who met a chap, right? I think she met him online, but then started getting very flattered by another chap who'd seen her picture and was sending her all sorts of, huge compliments and making arrangements to come and see her from Dubai and all that.
Oh, dear.
Which turned out to be her sick-in-the-head son
really?
to ruin the first relationship by pretending to be the bloke in the second one.
Well, that is the problem. There's a lot of people out there that you can get quite heavily involved with online, and you don't really know who you're talking to.
Exactly.
Apart from anything else.
Now, what you have to... now, this is me. This is me with my morality hat on, OK?
Oh, yeah.
What you have to decide, if you ever go near one of these illicit encounter sites, something like that can you regard it as any sex between any consulting adults is OK if they both want to do it, and it's not hurting anybody else, or does it threaten the whole institution of marriage, which, in my view, is the bedrock of our civilised society and the best environment in which to bring up children.
Well, I mean, you say that it's the bedrock.
That might sound old-fashioned, but that's the way I feel.
It sounds rather hypocritical, given that
it's not hypocritical.
by your own admission, you spent an awfully long time dating women who were actually married.
But I never broke a marriage up. I never broke a marriage up.
Yeah, but that wasn't for the want of trying, though, was it?
No, I never tried, because I always said to the lady concerned, the one thing...
you were like some kind of gigolo.
No, I wasn't a gigolo. I just said you must not let your husband find out what's going on.
There and seriously expect me to believe. Hang on,
harm and humiliate him.
You can't seriously expect me to believe that these women were seeing you and they're not going home to their husbands, who you've already described as boring, right? Who made their lives more boring than you did. They're not. Their feelings for their husband didn't change as a result of being intimate with you.
Well, they may have done, but I couldn't do anything about that.
Well, you could have done something about it. You could have not got involved in the first place.
I mean, there was one guy who...
don't give his name out.
No, I won't give his name out. But, I mean, he used to get up every morning, go out with a bag of spanners and fix dodgy lifts.
Right.
Well, that's not a very exciting life compared to the life I was leading.
Once again, you're looking down on someone.
No, I'm not looking down.
Now we're going back to the comparison anxiety.
No, I'm not.
Why are you saying that's not a worthy job?
No, I didn't say it wasn't a worthy job. I said it's not a very exciting job. Sitting on top of a lift and tightening the cable screws or something like that.
It's quite an important job, really, especially if you're in a lift.
I agree, it's an important job. I have no doubt in that. But driving a bus is an important job. But it's not a terribly glamorous job. That's all. Mind you, there's nothing wrong with driving a bus. I like buses, and they're exciting. They're exciting. Buses
are not exciting.
They are. They take you to places.
When was the last bus you were on, by the way?
Not so long ago.
I should point out that one of the few
weeks ago.
One of the few questions you got right in the Portsmouth quiz was actually who ran the bus company.
Exactly.
So you must use the buses down there.
Well, I don't actually, but I see them around all the time because they've got bus lanes like everywhere else. That's another thing I'm going to have to cope with in London soon, a cycling superhighway.
Well, I'll tell you what the biggest problem now is driving around, is that, I mean, I haven't yet seen whether I'm going to start getting tickets all over the place, but the amount of roadworks now is causing you to have to drive in an awful lot of bus lanes.
I know.
Now, I think it's
against
hope that these cameras and all these, various positions down bus lanes are not going to start handing out tickets to people, and then you have to then challenge them and try and claim that actually you should have been driving in there because that was the only place you could go. Unbelievable. I mean, over the course of the weekend, I must have seen something like about 15 major roads in the middle of the city of London completely shut down.
Yes,
just completely closed.
I know. I think it's a disgrace.
Incredible.
What I want to know is who in this country is sticking up for marriage, on this morality thing, on this...
You're still banging on about this, are you?
Well, of course I am, because I believe very much in marriage.
You believe in marriage?
Of course I do.
Even though you spent a great deal of time having sex with married women?
Well, that's not my fault.
Full sex, no less?
Yes, that's right, that's not my fault.
How is it not your fault?
Well, because I never initiated it.
Yeah, but you were undermining the status of marriage.
I promise you, I never initiated it. If a woman's married, I believe in the sanctity of her marriage, and I never tried to persuade her to break her marriage vows by coming with me. But I just kept getting approached by these women who, had these relationships which weren't working out, and they felt that I could be a suitable anecdote to the misery in which they found themselves. Yes. And that's all I was trying to do.
No, I understand.
That's all I was trying to do.
But you can also understand
allay misery.
My point, which is that you can't really preach about it on the one hand and say that it's a great institution that should never be rocked, and while actually rocking it.
If any of those husbands had ever found out, come to me and said, please leave my wife alone, I would have done. Yeah. Because I would not have wanted to have threatened a relationship, which they'd worked so hard to sort of build up over years.
Yeah,
however...
instead you had to creep about, and sort of behind everybody's back, though, presumably.
Well, there was a bit of that going on. Yeah, a lot of illicit hotel meetings and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Shocking.
Yeah,
not you're never worried that one of the husbands would find out and then come and batter you?
Yeah, constantly. I feared physical violence. Yeah, I don't like physical violence.
No, I know you don't. No.
So I kept a million miles away from
that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, well, I didn't want my face smashed up for the sake of, a bit of illicit nookie, you know what I mean?
No, quite right.
Yeah,
now, coming up in the next hour, we've got winners and losers, of course. I hope you've prepared 3 of each, which will be voted upon by the good people of Twitter out there.
Yes.
Follow us at the 2 mics if you're not doing it already, and we'll put out whether you retweet for the Mr. Parry success or you favourite for mine.
If you love the 2 Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the 2 Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Just follow us at the 2 Mics, where you can vote in winners and losers as well. It's going to be retweet for Mr. Parry. It's going to be favourite for me, but we'll put that out sometime very, very shortly during this hour. Now, I hope you've got some good ones this week, because last week people were complaining that yours weren't very good.
No, they weren't.
Once again,
mine are of outstanding quality. I spent all day yesterday thinking this through. Yeah, okay. Really, really carefully.
Excellent. All right. Well, let me tell you about this story. It's in all the papers this morning. But it's on the front of the Daily Mirror. Jaws rips off arms of 2 teenagers.
My God, this is terrible.
The thing that really struck me about it and was slightly kind of concerning to me is that there was a period of time when I lived in New York, and you know, even after we came back to the UK, actually, used to go to this part of North Carolina quite a lot with the kids, because it's a beautiful stretch of beach, right, down by a place called Wilmington, North Carolina. And it was a place called Curie Beach that we used to always get like a little condominium, and the whole family would go and we'd all swim in the water. And there was one year, I remember, after we left, that a couple of Russian tourists got attacked by a shark in that very same park.
Really?
And this place, Oak Island, is literally about sort of 10 miles around the corner from Curie Beach, where I used to go on a regular basis. And the idea that there are now sharks there, because they're not like Australia, it's basically the Atlantic. So
yes,
I don't think you can't really put shark nets in.
No.
And I don't even know if they've got shark alarms. It's very worrying, isn't it?
Well, I tell you what, this is real Jaws stuff, isn't it? You know, a small community like this terrorised by a shark. And do you know it's the 40th anniversary of the making of the film Jaws?
Is it really?
Yeah, and somebody's published a book about the making of Jaws to reveal that almost everybody on the set hated each other, right? That Steven Spielberg, who was 27 at the time, he made that film, right? Had to overcome all sorts of incredible sort of problems, like the budget running out all the time, you know, not enough money to go to places to film it properly. Right. And in fact, one scene...
Because they filmed it all up sort of around about... what do you call it?
Martha's Vineyard, that's right, yeah. But one scene, which is probably one of the most frightening scenes ever to have appeared in a film, which was the head. Do you remember the head popping up through a porthole in the boat?
Yeah.
And it was a severed head of a victim of the shark.
That's right.
And Steven Spielberg used to go and stand at the back of cinemas at the very minute when he knew the scene was coming on, just to gauge the reaction. Right. And he was thrilled by the fact that the
people would all scream.
And be paralysed with fear at this moment. That was made in the swimming pool of a director.
Was it?
Of a film director.
Right.
And all they did was, you know, they submerged all the stuff in the swimming pool, put a big tarpaulin over the top to make it look dark, and filmed it there.
Oh, right.
And you know, that cost like $250 compared to the $25,000 he would have needed to film it at sea.
The shark does look a bit sort of rubbery, doesn't it, and not as frightening as perhaps it did when you first saw the film.
No, it was a big mechanical thing, and it was called Bruce, after somebody who put up some money for the film or something like that, and it never worked properly, and it kept breaking down and all that kind of stuff, you know. So
great film, though. Still, I mean, it's still one of those films, if it comes on, I'll watch it, because it's just worth watching.
Well, you've got to watch the start because of the incredible music. I mean, what does that music symbol now? It symbolises terror and trouble, doesn't it? You know, near the boom, 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 boom. When you get that music coming on, you know you're in trouble.
Very frightening.
For me, the most frightening scene was the very first one when the kids are playing on the beach. You know, they're running out the water, and then the girl suddenly starts whizzing across the top of the water, and you're thinking, hang on, is she on a, what do you call those jet bike things? You know,
a jet ski.
Yeah, jet ski. But she wasn't. She was locked in the jaws of a shark, which was taking her up and down the water and then down into Davy Jones's locker.
Yeah.
That was her fate.
I can't imagine anything worse than dying that way or being attacked by a shark in any way, shape or form. I just can't imagine anything worse.
You die of terror, I suppose.
Do you remember we were talking to our good friend down in Australia, Sandra?
Yes.
When they had quite a spate of shark
That's
attacks
right,
down there, and she's in Sydney.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I'm just going off for a swim to Bondi Beach, even though there have been sharks spotted. The Australians have a very different attitude towards it, don't they?
Yeah, they do. A very different attitude
There's
indeed.
a 16-year-old boy and a girl of 12.
And
they're both frolicking in waist-deep water,
That's
so
right.
it's very, very close to the shore.
Yes.
And that's the other thing that's dangerous now when you get sharks coming that close in.
That's right, yeah.
Because normally they don't come that close in. And instead of having what was a fantastic sort of weekend holiday, it was just horrendous, absolutely awful.
I mean, these were two separate attacks, right? They lost an arm each.
Yeah.
It happened within 90 minutes of each other. Now, how did that happen? If the first one happened, then shouldn't there have been a massive alert to get everybody out of the water in the vicinity?
You would have
and then
thought
90 minutes later, the shark strikes again.
But that was the thing. I mean, one of the nice things about that part of the United States East Coast was that, unlike Florida, it was quite sort of quiet. You know, there wasn't loads and loads of businesses there. There wasn't loads and loads of shops. It wasn't like Miami, or even Fort Lauderdale. And it was very much a kind of community which was just kind of retirement people going down.
Yeah.
And it was all the beaches were beautiful, but very, very quiet. And you never even saw a lifeguard. Frightening.
Yeah, I know it is frightening, isn't it? And as you quite rightly say, you can't think of the sort of horror those poor little children have gone through. But, you know, if I knew, I would never swim in Australian waters, ever.
I don't think I would, no.
You know what I mean? I mean, you know, as you quite rightly say, the Australians have this, this terribly different attitude towards it. It's sort of, you know, it's...
Well, we swim in the water and it doesn't really matter.
Fate or something like that, or they have this sort of attitude towards it. But as far as I'm concerned, I've read too many stories about people getting bitten by sharks or killed by sharks or cut in half by sharks. You wouldn't get me swimming off Bondi Beach for all the tea in China.
Well, I think at this point you wouldn't swim off the coast of North Carolina.
No, you certainly wouldn't.
Or Florida, for that matter.
No, you wouldn't. No, I totally agree. As far as I'm concerned, don't do it.
Stick to the swimming
The more
pool.
I read about, the old climate change and global warming and all this sort of stuff, and, sharks are coming closer and closer to Britain. Well, I'll tell you what, the first time I hear of a shark spotted anywhere around Cornwall or Devon, you don't get me in the sea there either. Why would you go swimming in seas?
Well, you don't go in the sea much anyway, do you?
No.
When was the last time you swam in the sea?
The last time I waded into the sea was in the Solent quite recently.
Yeah.
I roll up my trousers and
that was when you were looking to where the sea ended.
Yes, that's
right.
That
sort of
that's
philosophy thing.
Yeah. Where does this sea go to? Where does the sea end? Where does the sea end and the sky begin? What is beyond the horizon? That's what I chant as a mantra to myself early morning when I'm paddling around in the Solent, because it helps me to get my head together for the day.
I suppose, is if it turns out you do end up going in off Bournemouth Pier, which I don't think you're going to do now. We're going to try and do the old flyby thing.
We're still working on that. We're still working on that.
Yeah, okay. Well, you might want to be aware of that. Did you see the other animal story of the weekend was over in Tbilisi, where they had those terrible floods and all those animals got sort of set loose from their cages.
It was
awful, wasn't it?
It was absolutely shocking. And by the way, I've got an animal story for you from the weekend. Okay. I rescued a little bird.
Did you?
A fledgling bird.
I saw some pictures of Canadian geese that you put out yesterday morning.
There you go. Now
Canadian geese are not exactly what you should be doing. You shouldn't be welcoming Canadian geese to this country because they're kind of predators on lots of other creatures, aren't they?
Well, what sort of creatures?
Well, I mean, they're a bit like magpies. They kind of take over a place, and then suddenly there's thousands of Canadian geese, and there's no ducks, there's no other smaller sort of wading birds or anything like that.
There's nothing I can do
they're like
about
big
them.
bullies. Well, you shouldn't be feeding them, is what I'm saying.
Well, there's nothing I can do about them once they're there. Now, the point is...
Yeah, but if you don't feed them, they won't come back.
I went to a secret pond in Stockbroker Belt on Sunday morning.
A secret pond?
Yeah, and found the family of geese there. And it was honestly, it was magnificent.
Well, these Canadian geese?
Yeah, the Canadian geese, that's right.
Well, you shouldn't be helping Canadian geese.
I'm not helping them. I took a picture of them, right? That's not helping them.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say you saved one of them.
No, I didn't. But what happened was, a bit further down the trail, into the woods, I saw a little bird on the floor.
Yeah.
And I thought, I wonder what this is. Now, remember recently I rescued a bee from death because the bee was on the floor.
The bee was resting.
Well, the bee was suffering from an over-pollination of pollen.
Yeah. Effectively, it was a bit drunk, actually.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, groggy and drunk. And I put it back onto a small bush in my garden, which I've just had renovated, the old roof garden. Looks brilliant, by the way. My mother came around to see it yesterday.
Oh, did she?
It's her 82nd birthday, so I'll give her a treat and let her have a look at the garden, And it's very good.
Yeah.
And so I saw this little bird, and I knew instinctively what to do. I knew what had happened.
Was it sort of lame?
No, it was prostate, actually, and it had been pushed out of the nest.
Prostate?
Yeah.
You mean prostrate?
No, prostrate is your gland. This was prostate.
No, it's the other way around, isn't it?
Prostate gland, prostrate. Yeah, prostrate. It was prostrate. The bird was prostrate. You're absolutely right, yeah. And so I knew exactly what to do. You pick it up very, very gently, and you go and put it under cover so that a predator won't get it, you know, like a hawk or something like that, you know what I mean?
Or a fox.
Or a fox. A fox. Although foxes don't really get around like that in the daytime.
Or a cat even might go for a bird.
Cat might go for a bird. There's not a lot of cats on that particular stretch of common. By the way, do you know what else I've noticed? At every pond I go to in Stockbroker Belt now, it's got its own heron. Herons are lonely creatures.
Yeah.
They're a bit
so
like
it's
me.
The same heron you keep
They're a bit
seeing.
like me, herons. They have to forge their own way in life.
Yeah.
On their own, you know, no allies, nothing like that, battling against the odds. What are you laughing at? What are you laughing at?
You're nothing like a heron.
Well, I'm telling you, the heron and I have a lot in common.
Really?
And, have to fight for themselves.
Maybe it's like the same heron you keep seeing.
No, it's not. It's not. The herons can't fly that far, and these ponds. I've seen 3 herons now at 3 different ponds in Stockbroker Belt. Really, one of them lives on the roof of a barn.
It's a bit like seeing some kind of image every time you go somewhere, like a sign of bad luck or something.
Well, maybe
like an albatross.
Maybe, but it's definitely
the time, by the way.
They've definitely got to be different herons. Yeah, I know, but the audience are very interested in the heron
Well,
situation.
they'll have to wait until the heron situation in Stockbroker Belt can be explained further. He's Mike Parry. I'm Mike Graham.
Certainly
very soon we will be doing winners and losers. This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He's Mike Parry. Winners and losers coming up very, very soon. Right now, though, it's time to talk about some more about the heron. Tell us. So are you seeing this heron? Do the herons look different? I'm convinced that you might be seeing the same heron.
I'm not. Honestly, I'm not seeing the same heron. It can't. Herons can't fly very far. I mean, they do move from pond to pond. I've seen them move sometimes, but it was so soon after I'd been to a previous pond that the heron couldn't possibly have got there.
Do you know what I saw this morning actually in my garden was a woodpecker. Which I've heard in a previous weeks.
We get loads of woodpeckers.
They're beautiful-looking birds,
Yeah,
aren't they? With a little red
birds.
sort of plume on the top of its head and quite a long beak.
Yeah, you know why...
It's digging away for worms in the garden.
Yeah, you know why they tap on trees, by the way? It's to get the mites out of the trees.
Oh, it's to get the mites,
Yeah, well, people think they're doing it to create a nest and all this kind of stuff and to get inside
the tree. Or to get the sap or something like that.
Yeah, it's not. It's to get the mites out of the bark.
Which they then eat.
Yeah, then eat. Yeah, that's what they do. Now, listen, I'm a bit worried because you told me all weekend you've been driving round, looking after your children, all this kind of stuff. Very commendable.
Yeah, thank you.
Except that I want to know what happened to your dog this weekend if it wasn't going to exercise.
Yeah,
you
the
were
dog
driving
actually,
round.
because of the fact that there was a lot of travelling going backwards and forwards, we actually put the dog into a kennel for a couple of nights, which is nice for him because it's a bit like a sort of little mini holiday.
Yeah.
And he goes and spends time with some other dogs and this lady who looks after him.
Sorry, what's this? You put it in a kennel?
It's called a kennel, but it's actually a farm. And
you abandoned your dog again?
No, I didn't abandon it at all.
You put it in a kennel?
No, it's not. Well, it's called a kennel, but I mean, he actually has a very nice large room which has an outside and an inside.
Is that for a day?
For 2 days.
Sorry, I didn't realise this. You abandoned your dog for a whole weekend.
No, I didn't abandon the dog for the whole weekend.
Sounds to me like you did.
No, not at all. When you have a dog, which you don't understand because you never had one, apart from the one that banged its head against the wall because it was so hated living with you.
Why do you mock a sick dog?
Well, I don't mock it, but you know nothing about dogs, as indeed you know nothing about children.
Epilepsy, and yet all you do is mock it and say it banged its head against the wall.
Well,
it couldn't help banging its head against the wall.
Yeah, but the point is that happened when you were very small, right? So you know nothing about dogs. And so when you have a large dog, rather than taking it all over the place in a car, which we sometimes do, depending on where we're going, when it's not a suitable thing to do, then you give it to somebody to look after for a couple of days, and the dog has a great time because the dog meets up lots of other dogs. He goes there on a regular basis, and so he's very happy about it.
Abandoning the dog like that. Now, the reason I asked is because if you'd have been driving around all weekend with your dog in your car, that is torture for a dog.
Well, it would be.
Dogs hate cars.
Well, they don't really like
dogs.
Some
hate
dogs,
cars.
Some dogs actually quite like going in the car.
No.
Yes, they do.
No.
Again, you're speaking from the point of view of absolutely no experience whatsoever.
I've been talking to experts.
Have you?
Well,
I'm an expert.
I'm an expert over the weekend.
Yeah.
And dogs hate cars. They really are terrified of them.
That's not true.
Have you ever shown your dog the keys to your car?
Have I ever shown him the keys to the car?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I haven't shown them to him, but I mean, he knows.
You have to
whenever he has to get in the car, he's very enthusiastic. He jumps up, jumps into the back of the car, loves it.
Well, the dog's deluded because
the dog's deluded.
Yeah.
There's only one person deluded around here.
No. You need to show your dog the keys to your car.
Why?
Because for some unknown reason, just seeing that sort of silvery metal thing gives the dog a sense of belonging, satisfaction.
Right? Really?
Not that it's an not that it's a stranger in a weird environment, which is a car. You know what I mean? the dogs get stressed out in cars, they have anxiety attacks and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Because what you're doing
a dog of yours probably would have anxiety attacks.
What you're doing is you're putting the dog in a big metal box, effectively, and the dog thinks it's being put into a kennel, and that's why you've got to help it.
Like all these things, if you have a good relationship with your children and or your dog and or whatever other sort of appendage that you have as part of your family,
yes,
the dog, for example, will get in the car quite happily if he knows we're going to the beach. He'll also get in the car quite happily if he knows we're taking him for a walk. Yeah. And he has no bad time in the car. And what you don't do is take a dog in a car for a very long period of time.
No.
And also when it's very hot, you don't put him in the car either.
Now, what you have to do is, you see, and this is.
So you're not telling me anything I don't know.
No. This is basic human psychology, but it relates to dogs. Is you leave a nice doggy biscuit on the seat in the car, so that when you open the door and the dog sees a biscuit, it leaps in. He then associates the car with something nice. Yeah, you know what I mean?
But why are you coming out? This is all very obvious stuff.
No, it's not. No,
it is.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not. It's stuff that I've discovered through talking to pet owners.
If you had a dog, and
I do like to,
and if you talked to me about it, then I could have told you all that stuff, and you wouldn't have had to talk to anybody else. You could have saved yourself the trouble.
No, not at all. And how have we got over the problem of your dog not having any doggy mates?
Well, I've just told you he spent 2 days with a whole load of other dogs.
No, he didn't. If he was in a room on his own,
he wasn't in a room on his own.
Most of the time, he wouldn't have been with them.
Yeah, he would have been, actually, because they could see each other. There's an area where they can go outside, where they can talk to each other, and they can interact with each other. Yeah. And so, actually, he saw quite a lot of them. And whenever he's out for a walk, he normally sees at least 1 or 2 of the other local dogs. He's very happy. He's a very happy dog. In fact, a woman who runs the kennel said he's one of the nicest dogs I've ever known. Yeah. Always happy, always good and enthusiastic about meeting other dogs. He's a very happy dog.
You should always let the dog sit in the passenger seat before you go on the journey.
No, that's not true.
No, it is. So the dog can smell your scent in the passenger seat and then knows that, that you're coming into the car.
No.
You should also...
You never let the dog sit in the passenger seat because then the dog thinks that he can sit in the passenger seat, which he shouldn't.
No, I said the driver's seat.
You just said the passenger seat.
No, the driver's seat.
Well, he shouldn't sit in the driver's seat either.
He should sit in the driver's seat.
Well, he thinks he can drive the car.
No, he doesn't. That'd be ridiculous. But he should sit in the driver's seat because that's where your scent is as the driver, and then the dog knows that it's in a friendly environment.
The dog should know that you can never get into the passenger seats at all.
Before any journey, you should start the engine.
Why are you giving me all this advice that I don't need?
Yes, you do. You should start the engine and then switch the engine off 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
So, you brum, 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 boom, and then switch it off.
Why?
And then...
Why?
Because it makes the dog feel more at home.
Rubbish.
It makes the dog feel more at home.
You do come up with some cobblers.
No. To know that noise, which irritates a dog like mad, dog's hearing is much more sensitive than our hearing.
Yeah.
You know that for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And you don't realise the vibrations of every nut and bolt in the car are searing through the dog's brain all the time in a much more intense way than it does to a human brain.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right.
So you
make him suffer more by turning the engine on and off.
No. You just get him used to the idea that don't worry, it's not a permanent noise.
Yeah.
It can come on, but it can go off. It can come on, it can go off. It can come on, it can go off. But then it comes on, and it stays on a bit longer. Yeah. And that's how you get the dog mentally prepared.
So what happens when he's wondering why it hasn't been switched off every 2 seconds?
No. That's how.
No, I think you've got this completely.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't. Honestly, I haven't. And you should be aware of these things. And I'm frankly, although I shouldn't be surprised, pretty surprised that you can't grasp these things and you don't do the research to find out what's going on.
I don't need to, because my form of research is to actually own a dog and to know how the dog feels and to interact with the dog and have a relationship with the dog. You, on the other hand, you're typical of some of these experts that walk around telling everybody what they should be doing with their kids, even though they don't have any, what they should be doing with their dog, even though they don't have one, and what they should be doing with their life, even though it's none of their business.
For instance...
you're still going to carry on with all this, right?
Well, I'm just telling you, for instance, humans can't read the signs with dogs. So, again, getting back to the car, because I've done a lot of research on this, okay?
Yeah. Well, you can do as much research as you like. You haven't got a dog.
When a car goes past and you see a dog, say a spaniel or a Labrador, sticking his head out the window... and his mouth's open, and he appears to be happy and smiling.
Yeah, he is happy, yeah.
He's not. The dog's terrified.
No, he's not.
The reason he's got his head out of the car is because he doesn't want his head in the car.
No.
Because of all those noise vibrations that really mess his ears up and his brain and all that kind of stuff, the dog decides to put his head out of the window. Now, that's not, a happy dog looking, cheerily at passers-by and all that. That's a dog asking for mercy, really.
Rubbish.
It is. It is. I'm telling you, it is. I know these things.
That is a great example of a dog that enjoys the wind in its hair,
Excuse me?
the wind blowing its ears back.
No, it doesn't.
Because dogs love the wind.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, they do.
No, it doesn't, honestly.
Well, I'm sorry.
You need to learn these things.
No, I don't need to because, practically speaking, as I say, I have the relationship with a dog, which is mine, and you don't have a dog, so you're talking absolute nonsense. And all you're doing is quoting people that you've found to be experts, but they're not experts.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just that, but from the minute I came across this research, I started studying dogorial behaviour.
Dogorial behaviour.
Yeah, and believe me, a lot of what had been indicated to me proved in practice to be absolutely accurate and absolutely right.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I think you should take more notice of it because, I do sometimes wonder whether... Oh, by the way, I'll tell you another animal thing. Honestly, as we're talking about animals. Down in Stockbroker Belt, somebody's been leaving poison around, which has so far,
a terrible thing to do.
So far, killed 2 foxes.
Yeah.
People would say, "Oh, well, foxes are wild and all that kind of stuff," but it doesn't matter. A fox dies agonisingly of this poison.
Yeah.
But also, the great fear is that domestic cats and dogs might also.
Right.
And this.
Well, there's been cases of this before, haven't there? Where there was one. I think there was
poisoner.
one particular stretch of path somewhere up in the north of England where somebody was leaving poison, and a couple of dogs got either very ill or one of them died. I think
that's right.
I can't imagine the mentality of somebody who'd want to do that.
I can't either. This is a place down in Surrey. But the other good news is the guy told me about this was a fireman actually, who I met locally. But he also told me that the firemen were called out because a little fox cub had got its head stuck in a hole in a concrete wall that had been drilled to allow cables to pass through it, but there was no cable in it, so the fox stuck his head in, got it stuck. Yeah. You imagine how hard that is to get that out. Yeah. And the fire brigade went along and they literally chiselled away the...
Very slowly, presumably.
Yeah, enough concrete around the top of the head of the little fox to get it out. But it was terribly stressed out. And what you have to do first is you have to get
you think that's a good use of the fire brigade's
I do.
time? I'm not sure it is,
First of all, you have to get a fox whisperer. Or the
surely
equivalent
that's a job for the RSPCA, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But it is the RSPCA, and they come and they just come for the little fox who's terrified because he thinks he's going to be stuck.
What are you doing with your hands?
Well, I'm just showing you, how you if that was the head of a little fox. Say this set of headphones here. Well, you just.
I thought you didn't like foxes.
You just no, I don't dislike foxes.
You're a sort of complete collection of contradictions.
No, I don't dislike any animals, but I mean to see a little animal, a little cub, only a few weeks old, with its head stuck in a hole, knowing that it will starve to death if you don't get that, and how terrified the animal must be. Of course, you have to rescue it. I don't care what it costs. I'm a taxpayer, as far as I'm concerned.
So you're happy for that money to be wasted?
Oh yeah. The fire brigade did a brilliant job rescuing the fox from its hole. Definitely,
extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. Definitely. Now, coming up, we're going to be doing winners and losers, and you can vote on it, of course, on Twitter at the 2 Mics. We'll be putting out precisely what you have to do as soon as winners and losers is finished in about 10 minutes' time. This is TalkSport. TalkSport Extra Time, and it's time for our weekly battle. I'm winning 7-1 at the moment, it has to be said. Mr. Parry tries valiantly to win it every week. Maybe this week will be the one that you actually manage to win. Would you like, in customary fashion, to go first with your 3 losers of the weekend?
OK.
Go on, then.
3 losers, right?
Yes.
First of all, the world's #1 batsman, the Australian opener, Steve Smith.
Yes.
For having a name like Steve Smith.
What's wrong with Steve Smith?
It's such a boring and bland name. Boring and bland. I don't know why he can't have a name like, Basil D'Oliveira or, something that is far more exotic than Steve Smith. Don't you agree it's the world's most boring name?
Well, no, it's not the world's most boring name.
It is.
It's a perfectly good name.
To be called Smith anyway, it's the most common surname in the English-speaking world. Yeah. So that's, that's multifarious. And Steve, I mean, if it was Nathan Smith or Constantine Smith or something like
Mike
that.
Smith.
Well, that was another very boring name, wasn't it? And he was a captain of England, wasn't he, once? Yeah. But anyway, so that's the first one. The second one...
So you're saying he's a loser just because you don't like his name?
I'm saying he's a loser because he's got that name. I mean, it's not his fault, but then again, you're not always responsible for what happens to you in life. Yeah. If the pack of cards you dealt in life has come out in the wrong order, that's hard luck.
Yeah.
Now, the second one is David Weir, right? I can't believe that David Weir has gone to Rangers to work as assistant to the first Englishman ever to be appointed Rangers manager.
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit of an historical position that he would not want.
Why would he not want it? Because presumably he would not feel perhaps ready to be the manager as such, so he gets to be the understudy, and then he gets to see how that all goes, and I'm sure he'll be a future manager at Rangers.
Because it's all wrong for me. David Weir is an outstanding footballer in the Premier League with Everton and with Glasgow Rangers in Scotland, okay?
He was.
He also captained Rangers, to the last time they were winning trophies. He was the last time he was lifting them, right?
Yeah.
But now he's working, and I'm not being, like nationalist here about Scotland, England and all that, but Rangers is a very big Scottish institution.
It is.
They've got their
They're
first...
currently not in the Premiership of Scottish football.
I realise that, but they've got their first ever England manager who's not even managed in the English Premier League. So this is a very interesting appointment.
Yeah, but you see, I take what you're saying, but I also say that, Rangers have to realise exactly where they are right now in the world of football. They're not very highly placed.
No, I totally agree, but the potential at Rangers is still enormous. I mean, everybody realises that. To come back and be a real force in British football again, that's eventually going to happen. So and I'm not saying Mark Warburton's a bad manager. Obviously, he
did very well at Brentford,
and some feel he was lucky to have to still not be there.
Yeah.
But I do think that of all the recent Rangers managers, his is the one that has his track record is the least impressive of all the Rangers managers of the past, without a shadow of a doubt.
Sure.
And David Weir's gone there as his deputy, which I find very odd. And the third one for me is Nationwide used to sponsor the England team. Okay,
yes, they did.
They've got an advert going out now, which I simply makes me, sort of
heave.
Yes, it's about this little kid who's very close to his dad.
Yeah, I've heard about this ad. I've not actually seen it.
And he gives him a jumper, and it's got sewn inside "Best Dad."
I know, I have seen it. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And
he
then
leaves it on a bus, right?
Well, no. Then you go forward 30 years to when the little boy
is now grown up.
And he gives that jumper to his son.
Right.
Okay, the very same jumper.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Because his dad was.
I haven't seen that bit.
His dad was like an overseas worker, a fisherman or something like that, or worked on oil rigs or something. So this is why the little boy originally gave him the jumper, Best Dad. So then we're down to grandson status, and the grandson loses it, leaves it on a bus, and lo and behold, it's found
by somebody from Nationwide.
Who then, finds through the website, who the owner of it is, and turns up at the house, rings the bell, and I've got your jumper.
Yeah, which is great. But if you want to go and open an account with them, it still takes you 3 weeks, and you have to bring loads of paperwork.
Well, I don't think it does, but I mean, obviously you've got to take identity and all that. But what I'm saying is, what on earth has that got to do with their ability to run a bank?
It's all about brand awareness, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, the idea, it just happened to be... So are we saying that if a Lloyds Bank employee or a Barclays Bank employee found the jumper, they'd have taken it home and used it to wash their car, but not the nice, kind Nationwide person?
I'm not sure that these, in the context of what we're doing here about winners and losers, I'm not sure that's the right one.
Of course,
by trying to point out that they once sponsored the England football team, desperately trying to make it relevant to sport.
Not at all.
Absolute nonsense.
Not at all.
Anyway, your time's up. Time for my 3 losers. Now, my first loser of the weekend, I don't think any of yours beats this one already, is Fabio Capello. He's now facing calls to resign as the manager of Russia, right? They lost another game, 1-0 at home to Austria in the qualifiers on Sunday afternoon, right? And now the Russian parliamentarians are even calling for him to go. They can't understand.
Of course he should.
They can't understand why the team is playing so badly. Listen to this, right? They've only managed 2 victories in the last 10 competitive games. One was against Liechtenstein, and the other one was against Montenegro, which they only won because the match was abandoned due to crowd trouble, and they awarded it to Russia. So he's in a terrible place, old Fabio Capello.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, he didn't even bother to have the courtesy to learn English when he worked here for 5 years. So do you think he's really learnt any Russian? Do you think he can communicate with the Russians who don't speak English?
Well, he said he was going to learn Russian. But, he's a massive loser this weekend. Now, the other one that I think is a big loser is the Women's World Cup. Now, not because the Women's World Cup is in any way...
This is very sexist.
No, it's not sexist at all. No, I'll tell you what's sexist about it, right?
Don't vote for MG, the sexist.
No, I'll tell you why it's not sexist. Have you looked at the fixtures for the Women's World Cup?
Yes.
Have you?
Yes.
Have you noticed anything weird about them?
No.
So do you know, for example, who's playing today?
No.
Well, Ecuador women are playing Japanese women, right? Switzerland women are playing the Cameroon women.
Well, who do you expect Cameroon women to play? Some men's team or something?
Well, the Holland team is called the Holland Ladies.
Right.
The English team is called the England Ladies.
Yeah.
So they haven't even worked out whether they call them ladies or women. I'd like to know what the difference is. And for that reason, I'm saying that the whole organisation has come up with a very, very weird way of describing the teams.
I think that's pathetic. Honestly, pathetic.
Why do they even have to call them women or ladies? If they want to avoid being called sexist,
honestly,
why can't they just be England and Germany?
That is just your macho attempt to have a go at the Women's World Cup.
Not true.
Absolutely pathetic.
Absolutely not true. And then finally, my third loser, again better than any of yours, is English cricket, right? Because only last week we were hailing the dawn of a new era, right? When England actually managed to win the first one-day international against New Zealand.
Yes.
They've now lost the following two, and so they're now 2-1 down in a series of 5.
Bit obvious.
So what's happened to the new era? The new era has already disappeared.
My cricket nominee, Steve Smith, having the most boring name in world sport, but the world's number one batsman, is much more relevant.
No, I don't think
so. Of course
it
is.
At all. Well, anyway, the audience will decide. Let's now go and find out what the winners are.
One's a winner, baby, that's no lie. That's no lie. You never fail to satisfy.
Okay, I'll let you go first. We'll have to hurry this up as well.
Okay,
because, unfortunately, it took way too long to give us your losers.
Okay, the first winner of the night is John Stones, the Everton centre-half.
Why?
Okay, because the combined defensive ability of Cahill, Smalling and Phil Jones, was so bad.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
So bad, we let in 2 goals. The first one was a complete shambles.
That was a shambles.
Nobody knew who was marking
who. It was
who.
Gary Cahill's fault, wasn't
everybody was out of position.
Yeah.
And then when Phil Jones comes off, we don't even get the boy from Southampton on. He was replaced, in fact, by Andros Townsend, wasn't he? Which is
you're talking about Nathaniel Klein again.
Nathaniel Klein, absolutely. So and John Stones, of course, is playing in the under-21 tournament.
Yeah.
He will shine in that because we know he's a brilliant player. So he will become the permanent England centre-half. That's winner 1.
Right.
Winner 2, Royal Ascot. 51,000 bottles of champagne will be served over the next 4 days.
Yeah.
It is the most glamorous and the most impressive race meeting in the whole of the world, even more impressive than the Derby and the Grand National, because of the class and the style of the people who go there. I am proud to be British when I see the Queen drive down the long, what's it called? The long trail.
The long trail?
The long...
the Trail of Tears?
No. The long avenue or something.
Straight?
No. She drives down from Windsor Castle straight into the Ascot Racecourse. It's called the Long something.
Is it?
And when
I'm glad you've been doing your research.
Yeah. That's 2. But the third one, I think this will win the night for me. And you touched on it earlier, and that's why I homed away from it, because I knew it was in my list of winners, is Beglar.
Who?
Beglar.
Beglar?
Beglar is
Beglar?
the hippopotamus that was tragically a victim of the flood in Georgia, which released it onto the streets. And I thought the pictures were so lovely of the local people all pushing Beglar out of the water so that the hippo didn't get drowned and all this kind of stuff.
So they could then shoot it with a dart.
No, well, they did. They tranquilised it. That's right, to try and put it back somewhere. But it didn't get killed. The people saved it from being drowned. Beglar was an absolute winner. And guess what? The local people knew this was going to happen because Joseph Stalin himself, built that zoo with the proceeds of knocking down the monastery that used to be on its site and selling the golden bells to metal dealers.
The golden bells?
Yeah, the golden bells of the monastery.
You've been talking a lot of golden bells.
No, the golden bells of the monastery. And people knew, they knew one of these days the curse of God, the wrath of God, would strike that zoo. It did, but fortunately, some of the animals, including Beglar the hippo, who looks like a very, very affectionate animal to me, was rescued.
Really?
Yes.
Is that the best you can do?
Yeah, well...
You spent all weekend coming up with these.
I think they're 3 brilliant nominees.
Well, I think you've missed out on some great opportunities. The first winner that I'd like to put up there for you is Jack Wilshere.
Well, that's too obvious.
No, it isn't too obvious.
So obvious.
Because this is a man who not only was told by you that he was a disgrace.
Thought.
Well, he was a disgrace. Yeah, but this is why he's a winner. You also said that he shouldn't be playing for England at all. Yep. He shouldn't be picked for the squad. He basically did his talking finally on the football pitch, which is what we'd like him to do. And I think you should at least be gracious enough to say he had a brilliant brilliant game, and he could now be very much a part of England's future if he keeps himself in check and if he manages to do the right thing and play like that all the time. He'll be a fantastic asset. So I think he's a number one winner. The second winner is Wales, not the football team, but the country, because I think the Welsh football fans showed an incredible kind of sort of willingness to provide one of the great atmospheres over the weekend. You know, great win against Belgium, absolutely tremendous. They put themselves in prime position for qualification for the
But that's very obvious
the
as
Euros.
well.
It's not.
No, they were my two first choices: Jack Wishere, the Welsh team, Chris Coleman. Oh, it's also obvious, man.
And
just
in case you think that you know, this is a guy who people have forgotten about because of Lionel Messi, because of the Champions League. Ronaldo scored yet another hat trick at the weekend, playing for Portugal, and I just want to register that as a brilliant hat trick, because it was a brilliant hat trick that he scored. And,
but again, so obvious, I'm afraid.
Well, it's not obvious. These guys are proper winners. I mean, you've come out with a hippo that lives in Tbilisi.
That's right.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Right. No, it's not.
It's utterly ludicrous.
The audience will respond more to my deep, affection for the hippopotamus than they do to your obvious adoration of Ronaldo.
Well, they might well do, but
Which borders on sort of, macho.
Macho what?
The word I'm looking for is macho adulation.
Really? Right. I think
Machodulation.
I think what you mean is homoeroticism.
Something like that, yeah.
This is Talk Sport. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I think the obvious winner is clear. We will be asking you if you want to retweet for Mike Parry.
Vote Porky.
We will be sending out at the two mics, and you can favourite for me. It's going out now. Your voting can begin now. This is Talk Talk Sports Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. Winners and losers is now open for voting. The voting will stay open until midnight tonight. And what you do is you retweet the tweet from the two mics for Mike Parry to win, and you favourite it for me to win. And the early going is 13-17, so quite close already.
So I'm winning?
No, you're not. You're fall behind. Stephen Bland has tweeted at the two mics. He says, I'm called Steve Bland. My vote goes to old MG already.
Yeah?
So he thinks he's got a worse name than that guy Smith that you're talking about.
Really?
And here's one from Frazzle who says, David Weir was number 2 with Warburton at Brentford, Porky. Get it together. Hashtag clueless.
Say that again, what?
David Weir was number 2 to Warburton at Brentford. That's why he's gone there.
I know that, but he's still now moved into his own arena, which is Scotland.
Oh, yeah.
And I think for a Scotsman to work to an Englishman who's not worked in the Premiership is an odd situation. I'm not being nationalistic or anything like that, but, he's only the 15th manager ever to be appointed as the Rangers boss. They hang on to the managers for a long time up there.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a lot to consider there.
Interesting.
Right.
Now, a couple of things to talk about. There was a song there about food. Did you see that thing that old Penny Lancaster came out with when asked about men who cook? Now, I know that you're always having to go at me for being somebody who likes to cook, but she claims that men who cook are not real men or something like that.
Well, what she's saying is really, she says that she thinks a woman's place is in the kitchen, and she doesn't think it is a... She said it... She actually used the word, apparently, according to the quotes I've seen in the piece that she wrote, that it's unmanly. Now, and what she means is, and I understand what she's saying, that, a woman's traditional role is, her husband comes home, he's the breadwinner and all that, and the woman should be in the kitchen, getting a meal ready. She said...
You don't think the fact that she'd been married to Rod Stewart for quite a long time was probably helped her along with that?
Well, she said she wants her men to be the hunter-gatherer, okay? And she says, if women want to go and work, that's fabulous, but when the men come home, it's more a case of spending time with the children as a strong role model, but going as far as cooking and putting the apron on, it doesn't belittle men, but it takes the masculinity away, and I would miss that. So she's very upfront about this,
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with her a little bit. I mean, I remember I worked with a guy once. He was at a reasonably senior position in the world of media and that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And he used to talk all the time in meetings about, I'm so tired and all that. Oh, why? Oh, well, get home tonight, I've got to put the dinner on. And you say, sorry, what do you mean you've got to put the dinner on? Oh, he said, I do most of the cooking in our house.
Yeah.
I get home before my wife and I start
that's
to
fair enough,
finish
isn't
it. Not really. I think that's an odd role for a father to have.
Not really.
Because he had children, school age and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that is odd. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but it doesn't form the
but if you're married to somebody,
standard model of a marital relationship.
Yeah, but if you're working with somebody, if you're married to somebody who works later than you, and you get home before they do, then obviously you're doing the right thing by cooking for the kids.
No, I don't know about
You'd be
that.
doing completely the wrong thing. Just sit there watching television, waiting for your wife to come home.
He used to do it
very sexist of you.
He used to do it at weekends as well and all that. He was in charge of the Sunday roast and all that. And I said, well, the only thing that I've ever been asked to do the Sunday roast is cut it, slice it, or whatever you do with it. You know what I mean?
That's because you're such a traditionalist, isn't it?
Well, I'm a traditionalist.
You're uncomfortable with sort of men doing what you regard as women's work.
No, I'm not at all. I'm not. No, you're trying to brand me a sexist again. That is completely unfair. I just think the traditional role model is always, that they... I don't know, Mum gets on with the dinner and your dad might go down the pub and have a drink before dinner or something like that.
When you go out for a roast like you did this weekend,
yes.
I mean, that's a different ball game altogether, isn't it? Because you're all sitting together in a kind of...
Yes.
You can't go down the pub while the women are cooking the meat, can you?
No, but funnily enough, the men folk went in the bar and had a few pints while the ladies were, like sipping sherry at the table around the corner or something.
Why?
I don't know, they just wanted to. They wanted to talk amongst themselves.
What, so you separated them out?
Is it a
male-only bar at that golf club?
No, not at all. Not at all. But
why weren't you in the same bar?
Well, it was myself and my two brothers-in-law.
Curious behaviour.
So we stayed at the bar, and it was my mum's day, it's her birthday. And she said, oh, come on, girls, I need to have a chat with you. We'll go over. And they just went off around the corner and...
how very strange.
Chat. Well, I don't think it's strange.
I think it's very strange. Now, what about this story on the front page of the Daily Mail that we haven't pointed out yet? Ginger Bond. Is Damien Lewis set to be the next 007?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it, but I don't know. Now, I had a bit of a go last week, over the weekend, about Mr. Cumberbatch getting an OBE.
Mr. Cumberbatch?
Yeah. Or it might have been an MBE.
Yeah.
Purely, because he's an actor. Now, somebody said, oh, no, don't be silly, he's done a lot of work for charity.
Yeah.
Well, I've done a lot of work for charity.
Yeah.
An awful lot more than Mr. Cumberbatch, because I'm a lot older than Mr. Cumberbatch.
So you say.
And I didn't get an OB or an MBE.
Yeah, well, somebody has to nominate you for that, though,
all he seems to have got that for, to me, is because he's a famous actor. Now, I'm telling you, would
you like to have an MBE?
I wouldn't turn it down.
You'd like to put the letters after your name,
I wouldn't turn it down.
You'd be one of those people who would put it on your business card, wouldn't you?
Yes,
Michael
I would,
Parry,
actually.
MBE.
Yes, I would, yeah.
In the hopes that it would either impress lots of people.
I'd be very proud to be honoured by my country.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm amazed I haven't been nominated over the years for my work in the media, where I've taken...
services to media, like what?
Well, I've taken the whole media operation forward by strides.
Have you?
Yes, in my
every
attitude to the
newspaper
job.
you ever worked on lost sales as a result of you being there.
Every newspaper in the country's been losing sales for the last 30 years.
You know that
as well as I did.
You didn't put any on, though, did you?
No, but I managed to increase massively audiences in other areas where I've worked and this kind of stuff. Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Yes. And all I'm saying is that I've done a lot more for my profession in terms of longevity and a lot more for charity in terms of longevity than Mr. Cumberbatch, because I am by definition about a decade or two older than him.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying.
Why don't you write a letter of complaint to the people that make out these honours lists?
I've helped so many people throughout my life. I'm surprised somebody hasn't written to the Honours Committee by now saying we think that Mike Parry should get an MBE or an OB or something, because he's a good guy, top man. He's helped so many people. He's made so many people's lives so much better.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. As a sort of a token of my affection for you, why don't I nominate you? Why don't I nominate you for the New Year's Honours list?
Yeah, I want you to, please.
I'll find out what the procedure is, right? I will send a note to the required party.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And say, I think this man should be nominated for a letter after his name.
Yes, if you would, I would be very grateful, please.
Cumberbatch has got a CBE, apparently. Would you like a CBE or an MBE? Or an OBE?
Well, I think, which is the one right next to knighthood? I think that's CBE, isn't it?
Commander of the British Empire.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
OBE, I think, is the lowest one down. That's
it is, and then MBE is the member of the British Empire.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll have any of those, honestly. It doesn't matter. Yeah, because most
don't you have to aim for one particular one, don't you?
Well, I'd like the one next down to knighthood, obviously.
Well, how about a knighthood? Maybe just like a knighthood.
Well,
see, Van Morrison got knighted.
Yeah, I couldn't understand that.
Yeah. We were invited to go and see Van Morrison last night, but in the end, it was too complicated to do.
Oh, was it? Where was it at?
At the Albert Hall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the guys that came to see our show on last Sunday.
You didn't tell me about this?
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't?
Yeah,
I didn't know I was invited to go and see...
Yeah, you were. There was a box at the Albert Hall, everything.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't tell me about that.
You've clearly forgotten about it.
No, it wasn't I've forgotten about it. You didn't tell me. Anyway, I probably wouldn't be able to make it, but it's very kind of whoever invited us. Thank you very much indeed. Now... do you
want to hear the latest on the winners and losers?
Yes, please.
23 for you, 36 for me.
Yeah, well, that'll soon change.
Will it?
When people pick up on it. I think it's amazing that people are cotton on so quickly to my diverse list against yours completely predictable list.
Yeah.
Now then, the other thing...
David says this, how can a surname make you a loser?
Well, it can.
Well, that's what he says is not a very good... I'm not going to read you the next bit because you might be insulted.
We worked once with a chap called Russell Dal Bartonson.
Yes.
And when I once said, you know...
Sounds like a Norman name, that, doesn't it?
Well, I think it's a fantastic name. I think that's a fantastic name. I think that, Matt Le Tissier, fantastic name.
Yeah, also kind of Normanish.
Yeah, these names that have,
So you're saying but you've said this before about foreign managers. I mean, the foreign managers get on so well because they have these great names.
They do, yeah. They do.
So, I mean, if you'd had a more kind of exotic-sounding name, do you think you'd have been more successful?
Well, I've got quite an exotic name.
Exotic?
Yeah, I think so.
Parry?
Mike Parry.
Why is that exotic?
2 syllables.
Yeah. It's 3 syllables, isn't it?
No, Mike Parry. Yeah, 3 syllables.
3?
Yeah, 3 syllables. Yeah.
You don't know how many syllables your name is.
Yes, I do, yeah. And that rolls nicely off the tongue, you know what I mean? It's also...
It's a good newspaper name.
Yeah, exactly, because it's short and tight, you see.
But it's not particularly romantic or it's not particularly exotic, though.
I think it is. Because anyway, I'm known these days as Mike Porky Parry, so that's a bit more exotic, you know what I mean? Now, you were talking about Damien Lewis, right? Yeah. And is he going to be next James Bond and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
You know the chap who played... Henry VIII as a younger man. Was it young Henry VIII or something like that?
I don't know.
Was it in the Tudors?
I don't know.
Could have been in the Tudors.
I didn't watch the Tudors.
I saw pictures of him falling around all over the place, drinking vodka in the street and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, really?
The guy's had a bad time. Yeah, tough time. Yeah.
He wasn't out with old Jack Grealish, was
no,
he?
He wasn't. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. But it's funny how it can all get to you. Because what I was going to say was... I think Damien Lewis. Is it Damien Lewis?
Yeah.
Or is it one of the other ones? No, it's Eddie Redmayne. Is a true Etonian, isn't he?
Yes, I think Eddie Redmayne is a true Etonian.
Yeah. He went to the same year as Prince William, right? Now, is Damien Lewis? No, I know what Damien Lewis is. I think he's either Harrow or Marlborough.
Yeah.
Right? So
you're impressed by that, aren't you?
Very impressed indeed.
Because that's the kind of shallowness that you espouse.
No, it's not shallowness at all. What I'm saying is, it would be marvellous, I think, for a proper English public school boy to play James Bond without a shadow of a doubt.
Even if he's got ginger hair.
Hey?
Even if he's got ginger hair, they're saying he would be the first ginger-haired Bond.
So what's that got to do with it?
Well, because, there's lots of people who think that, James Bond is a particular sort of, type
He is an old Etonian. I've just checked it on my information device.
Oh, is he?
He's definitely an old Etonian.
Oh, okay. So
that's brilliant. That would be great. Yeah, that would be great.
But James Bond's not meant to be an old Etonian, is he? I mean, James Bond is meant to be a very sophisticated but slightly deadly character.
He got a degree at Cambridge in Oriental
But he didn't go to
languages.
Eton, as far as the Fleming books are concerned. He didn't go to Eton, did he?
I don't know. I don't think it's specified where he went to school, but he definitely went to Cambridge University. I didn't realise this Damien Lewis guy was in Homeland.
Yeah, of course he was. That was where he sort of made his name.
Right,
Have you ever seen Homeland?
No.
Well, you should watch it.
Yeah, well, I'll get the box set or something. I'm going to sign up to Netlink. Is it Netflix?
Netlink?
Netlink. Netflix.
Yeah. Netlink is good too.
Okay,
You get all the train timetables as well. Now, tomorrow night, of course, it's going to be Ask Porky. So get your questions in. We'll be reading some of those
out. And you know what the quiz is this week now?
The quiz is now going to be on the Sweeney, which the independent quizmasters will be working on. The latest report from the two mics, retweet and favourite, is 2017 40 to me. So it's expanding.
Don't worry, that's
expanding. You can vote until midnight. Follow us at the two mics. We'll also be putting out a podcast so you can know when that's coming out around about 9 a.m. in the morning, I should imagine. Mr. Parry, thank you very much indeed. He'll be back tonight at 1, and as I say, it'll be Ask Porky time
as ever
as well. You can tweet those questions at the two mics. Don't forget to follow the two mics at the two mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.
I saw this little bird, and I knew instinctively what to do. I know what had happened.
Was it sort of lame?
No, it was prostate actually, and it had been pushed out of the nest.
Prostate?
Yeah.
You mean prostrate?
No, prostrate is your gland. This was prostate.
No, it's the other way around, isn't it?
Prostate, gland, prostrate. Yeah, prostrate. It was prostrate. The bird was prostrate. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I saw this little bird, and I knew instinctively what to do. I know what had happened.
Was it sort of lame?
No, it was prostate, actually, and it had been pushed out of the nest.
Prostate?
Yeah.
You mean prostrate?
No, prostrate is your gland. This was prostate.
No, it's the other way around, isn't it?
Prostate, gland, prostrate. Yeah, prostrate. It was prostrate. The bird was prostrate. You're absolutely right, yeah. You know when they fatten up geese for foie gras?
Well, for what?
What's it? Foie... What are you laughing at again? Foie...
Sounds like the mating call of a
What is it then?
woodpecker.
Foie gras.
Foie gras.
Foie gras.
Foie
Okay,
gras.
yeah, okay. Foie gras.
Foie gras.